One Piece Supreme Control, Chapter 821-840. Chapter 821 Complete Body Zylu. As if to symbolize that he is the king of everything in the world, the crown is perfectly inlaid on the top of his head, making him look elegant and cold. Not huge or thin, he is in line with the golden ratio. Standing there, the new Zylu has a style that people have to ignore. The corners of his mouth curved slightly, and a sinister smile appeared on Zylu's face. Perfect. In Zylu's mouth, 2 words were gently spit out. It seems that he is sighing about his means, and he seems to be talking about his new power. Recalling the sorrowful years of the past, it will not be easy for Zylu to come again this way. In the vast future world, there are few human beings, and it is not enough for him to complete the evolution. In desperation, he went through battles and came to the present time and space. And at the beginning of his weakness, he could only hide his figure, and when he encountered a strong enemy, he did not even dare to face it head-on, so he could only flee in shame. However, everything is about to change at this moment. He is perfect, and his strength has reached the peak. Absorbing the power that number 17 and 18 gave him, it was extraordinary. That vast breath, just a faint feeling, has already made him admire. It's just perfect. Unable to bear, Zylu praised again. At this time, Zylu completely ignored everyone present and was immersed in his own world. His perfect level of power is absolutely qualified to ignore anyone. Slowly clenched fists, then punched. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The crisp sound of breaking the air quickly sounded, and Zylu stood quietly in the same place, punching and kicking, with a quiet smile on his face. He transformed into a complete body, as if returning to the original, and even his temperament seemed to have undergone a huge change. He lost the panic and childishness of the past, removed the dross of the past years, and left behind the most perfect innocence. That is the pursuit of battle, and his self-confidence. He firmly believes that he has become the world's #1 and the king of the world, but at the same time, he is also eager and looking forward to a decisive battle at the top. Slowly raising his eyes, Zylu glanced at Kaylin, number 18, and shook his head slightly. These people are not his opponents, nor are they qualified to fight against him. He turned his eyes away again and put Vegeta and Faku in his eyes. After transforming into a complete body, it seems that all the shame in the past has disappeared, and it is impossible to cause the slightest wave in his heart. Not only has his strength been transformed, but his temperament has also been sublimated. Calm, confident, proud, indifferent, cruel. He gathered the genes of the Frieza clan, humans, and Saiyan clan as one, and even his personality inherited the characteristics of these people. Keeping Vegeta and Faku's slightly cautious and dignified eyes at the moment, Saru let out an unintelligible smile. What are you laughing at? Vegeta didn't feel that Saru's breath had increased much at the moment. He strode forward and shouted coldly. Although the appearance of this monster had changed, it made him hate it even more. Especially the laugh just now, as if contemptuous, hurt his self-esteem. What are you laughing at? Sirius raised his eyebrows slightly, continued to throw his fists, tested his strength, and faced Vegeta's questioning with a calm expression. Laugh at your weakness. Suddenly, his fluttering words were sent out. Vegeta's expression changed suddenly, and these words caused a critical blow to the proud prince. Damn it. He even threw the Faku directly, and quickly ran towards Zylu. Don't get excited, Vegeta. Faku's face changed, but he faintly felt that Zylu was not easy to deal with, and blocked the road. Get out of the way. However, Vegeta waved his hand, opened Faku's hand, and rushed over. Vegeta, who passed through the spirit time room, was already confident enough to be conceited. He didn't think there was any power in the world that could surpass himself, the power beyond Super Saiyan. In an instant, Vegeta had come to Sirius. Looking around, Saru's state at the moment passed into Vegeta's eyes. The casualness and indifference made Vegeta realize that the other party didn't care about him at all. Damn it, I'll let you know how good I am. I'm Super Vegeta. With a loud shout, Vegeta's fist as big as a sandbag was raised, and he punched Shuru fiercely. Sirius, who has been slowly punching and testing his own strength, seems to not care about Vegeta's attack at all. His every punch, every kick, was so slow that Krillin felt that he could catch it, and even swept through the air, making the air crackle. In such a situation, it doesn't look like a furious Vegeta's opponent. Bang! This punch was very quick, hitting Xilu's face and making a dull sound. Xilu's movement to test his own strength was suddenly a stagnation. However, he didn't have the powerful force of this punch to fly, and he was stabilized just by eating all over his body. Then, his brows furrowed, and he seemed to be angry. The smile on the corner of his mouth disappeared quickly, and Saru turned his head, staring at Vegeta's fist so hard. His indifferent eyes made Vegeta tremble in an instant, and there was an inexplicable fear in his heart. How is that possible? See this. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Cecil's state, Vegeta took a few steps back in shock. That punch, he used all his strength, but the latter, unexpectedly, did not hurt at all. It's like being bitten by a mosquito. Xilu's indifferent voice came out. Oh no, mosquito bites can make people ticklish, but your fists can't even tickle. Plain words are simply the greatest mockery. Vegeta was furious all of a sudden. He shouted loudly, not believing that his full-strength blow could not cause any damage to the opponent. Ah, you wicked fellow, die! The fists were slammed alternately, and the huge force immediately suppressed the void and set off a strong airflow. Hoo-hoo! The gust of wind swept through, and Xilu smiled at the corner of his mouth in the face of this continuous attack. He seemed to try his speed and began to dodge. His movements were not big, his feet didn't even leave the ground, but only moved from the waist up. Vegeta's fist was so incredible that it almost turned into a phantom, but Saru's head swayed left and right, dodging all his fists without leaving a single one. 30 seconds passed quickly, and none of Vegeta's fists were hit. Vegeta. You are no longer my opponent. Xilu smiled coldly and said so. Chapter 822. Are you interested? Every punch was thrown with all his strength, and the speed and strength had reached the limit that Vegeta could achieve at this time, but the consequence was that not a single punch was hit. How can that be? Not only Vegeta himself was shocked, but even the people watching the battle were amazed by this incredible scene. There was a trace of fear in number 16's eyes. Others didn't understand the horror of Xilu's complete body, but there was information in his mind that it was an unstoppable and extremely terrifying force. Its enormous energy is enough to destroy the world. Faku's eyes kept shrinking, and he couldn't see through the power of Xilu at all. This newborn guy seems to have completed a sublimation, and has transformed from the inside out. But there is no doubt that his power has surpassed himself. How strong Vegeta is, Faku, who has played against him, naturally knows, but the scene at this time is so surprising. Impossible. A loud roar came from the field, full of unwillingness and anger. Vegeta stared at Saru closely, clenching her fists, but stopped attacking. His whole body trembled a little, and Saru's power shocked him. Nothing is impossible. Sirius sneered. You weak, you are no longer my opponent. It's impossible. Vegeta roared again, and his body once again spread out a larger power, energy fluctuations, and the next second, he rushed to Saru again. However, the battle soon ended. Sirius just took a step forward, his head tilted slightly, and he had avoided Vegeta's punch. It seemed that the opponent's attack was full of loopholes in his eyes. Immediately after, his body swayed again, and he was already in front of Vegeta, face to face with him. The terrifying speed made Vegeta completely unable to react, and his thoughts were sluggish for a moment. Ha tilde. With a sneer, Xilu's fist clenched, and then suddenly swung out. Bang! The powerful chi slammed into Vegeta's stomach, causing him to bend down immediately and retching. The terrifying aftermath directly shattered the combat uniform behind him and charged out. Cough cough. Vegeta took a few steps back, her body gradually fell down, and she knelt on the ground. Vulnerable. Xylu took a few steps forward and punched Vegeta on the head again. The terrifying force directly knocked the latter out, slammed it into the ground, punched a big hole in the ground, and the whole island trembled. Trembling. Dad. Trunks shouted loudly and rushed towards where Vegeta was, looking anxious and worried. Trunks. A strange expression appeared on Saru's face. As soon as he moved, he was about to defeat Trunks, but a black shadow flashed in front of him, but it was already in front of him. Slightly stunned, Xylu reacted with a playful expression on his face. Faku, you want to block me? Faku raised his eyelids, but did not say a word. His body stood firmly in front of Xylu, and there was no trace of fear and panic at all. It's interesting, and it saves me from looking for you to get back the shame of the past. His eyes became cold in the blink of an eye, and there was a trace of killing intent on Xylu's body. I still remember how arrogant Faku's posture was when he initially transformed, and the disdainful eyes deeply hurt his heart. The greatest pain in life is not failure, but after failure, being ridiculed and looked at with disdain in eyes, that kind of indifferent eyes will blow all fragile hearts to pieces. Xylu raised his feet, and Faku put his hands in a good posture and waited solemnly. It's pointless. I don't know what it is. These 8 words popped out of his mouth, and Xylu's figure instantly disappeared in front of Faku. The terrifying speed made Faku's pupils shrink immediately. Too soon. He couldn't see the other party's movements at all, and he couldn't catch the other party's trace. The ground trembled, and suddenly, a figure had come to the front of Faku. Between the blurred vision, Faku saw a fist approaching quickly and getting bigger. Buzz. The space seemed to tremble under this punch, and the terrifying power made Faku immediately understand that this punch was not something he could block. That is to say, with this punch, he will be instantly killed. Terrible. Bang. This punch hit Faku's stomach without any hindrance, and the terrifying power immediately spread to the whole body, which directly dissipated the power gathered by Faku. Da da da. Faku took a few steps back, blood appeared at the corner of his mouth, and his vision was a little erratic. This punch shattered all his strength, making it difficult for his entire body to maintain a steady posture. For a time, he stood there, shaking a little. Die. Xylu sneered, strode forward, clenched his fists again, and waved slowly towards Faku. This punch went straight to Faku's head, and the angle of its swing was extremely tricky. If it hit, Faku would surely die. Woo! The gust of wind started, and the punch quickly approached Faku, and in the blink of an eye, it had already reached Faku's temple. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Seeing the next moment, this punch is about to blast Faku's head. At this moment, a figure twisted, from blurred to clear, and suddenly appeared. Then, Xylu's fist was tightly grasped by a hand, and he could no longer advance an inch. At this moment, Xylu's fist is only less than 1 centimeter away from Faku's temple, but within this millimeter, he can no longer move an inch, as if it was frozen. Stop, he's already lost. The plain words came out, causing Xylu's right hand to tremble violently, his pupils contracted, and his body retreated 10 meters. Faku's sight also became clear at this time, and after seeing the person in front of him, he whispered in shame. Master, I'm sorry, I lost. It doesn't matter, you are not his opponent. The person who suddenly intervened was Yangqing. He turned his head and looked at Xylu coldly. The power of the full-body Xylu can even be said to be invincible in this era. It's you. Xylu's pupils shrank, and his eyes became solemn when he looked at Yangqing. Just now, with the sensitivity of his 5 senses, he didn't even notice how the person in front of him appeared. Xylu, you are indeed very powerful when you have transformed into a complete body. Yangqing's eyes flashed, and he seemed to be very interested, and laughed softly. Then, are you interested in playing against me? Chapter 823 Escape as soon as possible. Yang Qing was about to make a move. Facing the complete Xiaolu, he finally couldn't bear the itching feeling in his hands and wanted to try the opponent's strength. In the original book, the guy in front of him can be described as the ultimate boss of a generation. Its ruthless character, powerful strength, and forbearance means can be called a typical case of villain boss. Compared to others, like Frieza, Majin Buu, etc., this man is a real character with both means and strength. Who are you? Xiaolu has not yet figured out who Yang Qing is, but just seeing the respectful look of Faku, you can roughly guess that this guy must also be a powerful person. You can call me Qing. Blue. With a puzzled expression on his face, Saru didn't know who this guy was. Blue. At this time, Trunks, who came to Vegeta and found out that Vegeta was not hurt much, also murmured. In the legend, Qing is the strongest in the universe, and no one can beat him. Even if it was Uncle Monkey King and his father in that era, their strength was far worse than their younger counterparts. However, Trunks has never seen Qing shot. Qing, are you finally going to shoot? Whispering these words, Trunks looked at the field with anticipation and excitement in his eyes. It's him. Number 16, who was lying on the side, also squinted at Yang Qing, carefully recalling the information about Yang Qing in his mind, but there was no progress. Kaylin, the two Tianjin fans who just felt it, also looked at the two people standing quietly in the field with a dull expression. It's him, the one who came here with Trunks. They had met Yang Qing when Trunks traveled through time and space, so they were somewhat familiar. Just looking at Vegeta who fell on the field and Faku who was seriously injured, the corners of Krillin's mouth showed bitterness. The situation is getting more and more complicated. What should I do? That person, I don't know if he is Xiaolu's opponent. Goku, what are we going to do? He also knew in his heart that Sun Wukong at this time was no match for Xiaolu at all. Moreover, the opponent's target is Sun Wukong. If Wukong appears, he will definitely die. Damn it. Krillin clenched his fists, angry at his powerlessness. God's Palace. Salu has become a complete body. Vic was seriously injured in the battle just now, and Vegeta was also seriously injured. Hearing the news one by one, Sun Wukong's face became serious and solemn, and he couldn't help but feel nervous. Dad, what should I do? Sun Wukong looked at the people around him worriedly. In everyone's heart, the most reliable person is Sun Wukong. Habitually, everyone will think of him when they encounter an invincible enemy or difficulty. Don't worry. Although Sun Wukong hadn't thought of anything for a while, he touched Gohan's head and smiled at him. At any time, Sun Wukong always looks confident, and his attitude also makes the people around him relax. Sun Wukong was comforted, but also nodded and relaxed. At this time, Sun Wukong put his mind down and sensed the breath below. What a powerful breath, is this the complete Saru? He hasn't completely released his breath, but it's just a little bit, but it's already surprising. At this moment, Sun Wukong has just come out of the spiritual time house, and his golden hair seems to be normal. This is the practice of their father and son. After training in the spiritual time room, Sun Wukong can be said to have already broken the bottleneck, but even so, he is still not sure about Xiaolu. It's just a little strange, there are no enemies around Xiaolu, why is his anger so cautious? It seems to be afraid of what? Sun Wukong suddenly sensed that a questioning look appeared on his face. For Yang Qing, he didn't feel it at all. On the island, waves of waves rushed towards the shore of the island, setting off waves. The sea breeze blew slowly, brushing the cheeks of everyone present. Yang Qing still stood there quietly, and did not take the lead, and Xiaolu, from the beginning, his eyes were full of solemnity. I don't have any information about you in my mind. Sirius suddenly spoke. No, maybe it's time for you to think about it again. After all, we came from the same place. A mysterious smile appeared on the corner of Yang Qing's mouth, and said softly. With just one sentence, Xilu's face was startled, and his heart began to turn upside down. He actually said that I came from the same place as him. Where am I from? He knew where he came from, but, did the person in front of him actually come from that place? But who is he? Sweeping Yangqing's face into his mind, Xilu began to recall it carefully. As if the pages of a book were being turned, Xilu quickly searched for information about Yangqing. A face and a name are enough to make Cyrud. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. A lot of information came out. There is a large amount of martial artist information stored in his mind, which is also an important treasure trove for him. After more than 10 breaths, Xilu suddenly shook his entire body, raised his eyes again to look at Yangqing, and his eyes were already full of incredible and shocking. You are blue. This sentence is already full of fear and shock. In the back of his mind, there is a piece of information that is not very complicated and detailed. Compared to Sun Wukong, Vegeta and others, this piece of information is simply created by a swipe. However, the meaning of this piece of information can make countless powerhouses in the universe flinch and panic. Qing, the first known Saiyan to transform into a Super Saiyan, taught Vegeta to successfully transform, and Sun Wukong couldn't hold a round in his hands. According to the information returned by the exploration, it is the #1 powerhouse in the universe. It has the terrifying energy to destroy the galaxy, and even more mysterious power is hidden in it. Decades passed in the blink of an eye, and the years have not left any traces on him. This is a mysterious #1 powerhouse in the universe. If you encounter it, escape as soon as possible. The information is not long, but the meaning it represents makes Xilu's whole body tense. Especially the last sentence of this piece of information made him tremble. If encountered, escape as soon as possible. Chapter 824 enough to deal with. Whether it's Sun Wukong, Vegeta, or Sun Wuhan, their information is extremely detailed, and they are full of desire, hope and confidence to defeat them. But, only this person. In the end, he turned out to let himself escape quickly after encountering it no matter what the situation is. This is simply too shocking to Xilu. Just a short paragraph in the information has already explained how jealous the doctor is for this guy. Even, in the data, it is also described that this person has a son named Shaya, who is also extremely terrifying and is an existence that can destroy everything. Yes, he is Qing. Xilu, are you afraid? Trunks also heard Saru's voice at this time, sneered, and shouted loudly. What? This sentence surprised everyone present. He looked at Yangqing in shock. Who is this person? Listening to Trunks' tone and looking at Sirius' current expression, it seems that Sirius can be extremely jealous. Woo. Taking a deep breath, Xilu looked at Yangqing even more solemnly. Doctor, I'm afraid you thought you were already dead. The seriousness in his voice can be heard by anyone. According to records, you were about 20 years old when you appeared. Oh no, according to the doctor's analysis, you were about 40 years old when you first appeared on Earth. In a blink of an eye, more than 10 years have passed, and you should be 50 years old anyway. However, looking at your face, skin and hair color, you still look like you are about 20 years old. Time can't leave any traces on you at all. What a horrible person. Xilu seemed to be sighing, but the information in it made everyone present tremble. Trunks also shivered. He only looked at Yangqing's face, but he forgot that he seemed to be a generation older than his father. Hee, I'm sorry, I'm an immortal existence. Yangqing shook his head, not caring what Xilu said. Immortal. Xilu was startled, then shook his head. It's really enviable. Come on, let me see how strong your power is. Don't worry, I won't kill you. As if afraid that the other party would not make a move, Yangqing also reminded him, making everyone present speechless. Who is this mysterious young man? To be so confident, it can even be said to be arrogant. But what made them strange was that Sirius didn't seem to be angry at all, instead he looked a little relieved. This can't help but shock them. Could it be true what this young man said? Thank you so much then. Since there is no danger of life, Xilu's eyes have a little less fear, and in Yangqing's eyes, the desire and hope of fighting have increased a lot. In the doctor's data, your strength is very powerful, just to see it. With both hands clenched, Xilu's eyes became cold. Once the battle started, Xilu's demeanor was completely different, and the aura on his body was even more powerful. Immediately afterwards, his muscles tightened and he let out a loud roar. Ha! Just listening to the sound of boom, the terrifying breath rushed out from the depths of Xilu's body in an instant, spreading mightily in all directions, and its terrifying airflow caused changes in the sky. Boom! Lightning and thunder, the sky in a radius of thousands of miles. Oh no, the celestial phenomena of the entire Earth have been affected. The weather became gloomy, the clouds were dense, and the huge lightning bolts tangled and circled, neighing and making a huge noise. And this scene, especially the sky above Xilu's head, is the most serious. Dao Dao's terrifying energy centered on him, heading towards the surrounding area. Tsunamis burst out on the sea, and countless bubbles spit out from the mouths of countless swimming fish, and their eyes were full of panic. Where to escape? In the city, human beings look at the suddenly changing sky, their eyes are full of confusion, and a sense of fear arises in their hearts for unknown reasons. God, why is it suddenly dark? People raised their heads and looked at the sky. When they saw the densely shining thunder and lightning, their hearts were faced with the terrifying power of heaven, and they were afraid. Is this the full power of Sirius? It's terrible. Sun Wukong put his hand on Gohan's head, and his face became very solemn. He did not have the confidence to defeat such a Xilu. Buzzing. The space was trembling madly, the airflow was chaotic, and the dust covered the sight of everyone on the island. The people present were all discolored by the huge chi in Xilu's body, and only one person's expression remained the same as before. That's all your power, it's amazing. Yangqing sighed in admiration. At this moment, the mighty aura and energy on Xilu's body was indeed terrifying to the extreme. In his opinion, this power even surpassed that of Dapra, the king of the demon world. It's an incredible thing, but it just happened abruptly. And, this is not just beyond, but a realm beyond Dapra. It is also because Yangqing has a high opinion of Sun Wufan's power. How powerful is Sun Gohan, who can burst out terrifying power after being angry, and kill Xilu with 3 punches. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Are you dealing with me in this state? Xilu, who burst out with all his strength, looked at Yangqing coldly, and said coldly. It is also true that your current strength is indeed beyond my current state. Although Yangqing is confident, he also knows that just relying on his original state, he is no longer Xilu's opponent. Clenched his fists, just with a poof sound, his hair and eyebrows had turned golden, and his pupils had turned green. This is. Seeing Yangqing transform, Trunks' eyes lit up, and Vegeta's weak eyes shone with light. He can also transform into a Super Saiyan. Kaylin, Tianjin Fan and others were stunned. Moreover, compared to Vegeta's transformation, Yangqing's transformation did not have the slightest smell of fireworks, and he didn't even feel the increase in chi. That's the power of the Super 1 stage. Facing Xilu, Yangqing explained softly. The strength at this stage is very difficult to cope with you, I need to improve again. Poof. The whole body trembled again, and Yangqing's golden aura became even more surging. This state is called Super 1 full power. It's enough to deal with you. You can have a good fight. Chapter 825 Sun Wukong arrives. Everyone watched the golden arrogance burning in the field, but it did not cause any changes to the surrounding environment, and Yangqing, who did not even leak a breath, had his pupils shrunk to the limit. What's going on? I can feel his Super Saiyan transformation, tyrannical, powerful, but I can't feel the presence of air. He turned into a Super Saiyan, how powerful is he? It's so weird. I can't feel any breath, but my heart is trembling. Trunks, Keelan, Tianjin Fan, Vegeta, who was weak and sober, looked at Yangqing in the field, and their hearts were trembling and shaking. It was a strange feeling, knowing that the other party must be extremely powerful, and even his appearance was unimaginable, but when I felt it with my heart, there was no sense. Super 1, Full Power. Xilu will not be confused by Yangqing's appearance at this time, because he is also like this when he transforms into a complete body, and his breath is not leaking, but the power of his gestures is extremely domineering, and no one can resist. It can be seen that the realm of the other party is at the same level as his own. But, just in the first stage of Super Saiyan, do you want to deal with me? With a sharp look on his face, Xilu has a contemptuous anger. Try it first. Yangqing still had a smile on his face, very relaxed and casual. After he transformed, it seemed that apart from the change in appearance, his aura had not changed at all. In front of the Temple of Heaven, there was a hint of surprise on Sun Wukong's face. He could feel that Xilu's aura had become incomparably powerful. This was clearly a strong enemy, but he couldn't feel the existence of another breath, as if that person was in his consciousness. In the induction, it is completely invisible. It's so strange, who is Xilu's opponent? I can't even feel him. His brows furrowed tightly, and Sun Wukong couldn't hold back a little in his heart. In his current state, it is not clear whether he is Xilu's opponent, but he is quite confident that he can escape from the opponent's hands. Gohan, stay here, there is something strange in Xilu, I'll take a look. Well, Dad, be careful. Sun Wukong looked at Gohan's worried eyes, and after a slight start, nodded with a smile. Don't worry, Gohan. Afterwards, his expression became solemn, and he carefully sensed the position of Xilu, and pressed his right hand on the eyebrows to prepare to teleport directly, but at this time. In the dark, a thunderbolt suddenly flashed. Whoa! The incomparably huge breath suddenly appeared out of nothing, and the breath that was clearly not felt just now suddenly swelled and became incomparably huge. In an instant, it filled Sun Wukong's mind, causing his movements to be stagnant. Shocked eyes appeared. Too powerful. It was an indescribable and powerful aura, like a thunder hidden in the depths of Jushao, among the dark clouds. He never probed, only when he found the target, when the storm was about to come, would he show his hideous face and claws. Suddenly appeared among the world, causing great destruction. This breath is too bursting, too powerful, and even as soon as it appears, it has already competed with the aura of Xilu, and confronted violently. This is another person's breath. Sun Wukong suddenly affirmed, and his eyes were even more shocked. Because of his rough feeling, he found that this power was even stronger than the power he obtained when he came out after training. Who is it? He was even more curious in his heart, and he couldn't contain his surprise at all. Huh! In an instant, Sun Wukong disappeared from the Temple of Heaven and came to the island that was caught in the chaos of war. His arrival was immediately felt by everyone present. Goku! Goku! Uncle Goku! Kakarot! The first time everyone present saw Sun Wukong, they were either excited or surprised. You came out early. Tianjin Fan wondered. According to time, Sun Wukong has not arrived from the day he entered. Well, the expected goal of cultivation has been achieved, and it is useless to stay any longer. When Sun Wukong saw the people present, he nodded slightly, and then looked at the field with solemn eyes. The first thing that came into view was Xilu, his new body. What a huge, evil aura. Sun Wukong's face was solemn, his right hand was clenched tightly, and he was extremely jealous of Xilu. At the same time, Yangqing's blonde hair also caught his eye, and he was immediately taken aback. In a sense, the state of the two at the moment is almost the same. The same blonde hair, golden eyebrows, there is very little strong aura on the whole body. Super Saiyan full power state. At the first sight of Yangqing was shocked. So powerful. Immediately after he saw Yangqing's face, his expression changed rapidly, and he actually had a natural look. It turned out to be him, no wonder. In the field, the two people who quickly passed a blow also stood apart, and their eyes were placed on Sun Wukong's at the same time. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Body. Sun Wukong, you finally came out. I've been looking for you for a long time. Xilu's eyes narrowed, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Are you Xilu? Really strong? Ha. Sirius sneered. I'm afraid I'm not your opponent at this time. I have to practice for a while. I'm sorry, I can't play against you. Sun Wukong said calmly, without any embarrassment or concealment. In this sentence, Kaylin and others were shocked. They did not expect that even Sun Wukong was not the opponent of Xilu. What about the next battle? If it wasn't for an accident, you wouldn't be able to escape today. Xilu said coldly, and glanced at Yang Qing from the corner of his eye. That's not necessarily true. Sun Wukong chuckled, but then looked at Yang Qing. Hello, we meet again. You are really strong, and I really look forward to the next battle with you. You are growing up so fast. If I give you some more time, I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to defeat you. After watching Sun Wukong carefully, Yang Qing said with admiration. At this time, Sun Wukong may have already reached the primary stage of Super Tournament 2, but he felt that this stage was too physically exhausting and affected the battle, so he chose other methods to improve. So, he's already at the stage of Super Saiyan full power. It can be said that among the entire Longzhou, the most talented and the fastest progressing is none other than Sun Wukong. Chapter 826 When the people present heard Yang Qing's words, they all looked at Sun Wukong with strange eyes. How powerful Yang Qing is. Just by fighting against Xilu just now, you can see that this is the only strong person who can fight against Xilu. But the latter actually said that Sun Wukong would not be able to have such power for a long time. Looks like I'll have to spend my time eliminating you soon. Xilu's eyes narrowed slightly, staring at Sun Wukong's killing intent. He would not take Yang Qing's words as a deaf ear. Sun Wukong smiled slightly, ignored Xilu's words, and nodded to Yang Qing. There was no more words in the field. Yang Qing turned his eyes to Xilu again. Let's fight on. After transforming into Super 1 full power, Yang Qing took the lead in launching the first attack. When the punch was only revealed, an earth-shattering aura erupted, and it was also the first time his whole body was exposed. The breath of that moment made countless people's faces change greatly. After a blow, Yang Qing and Xilu passed by, and then stood still. At this time, Sun Wukong just appeared. Come on then. Xilu, who had a preliminary taste of Yang Qing's power, was also high-spirited, his hands stretched out, and he was ready for battle. The sea breeze was blowing, and the dark clouds above the sky seemed to be about to disappear without being deterred by the powerful strength of the two for a while. But at this moment, between heaven and earth, a huge thunderbolt suddenly crossed. Boom! Lei Gong was furious, and the sea rolled. At this moment of shock, the figures of the two people moved, as if they were suddenly struck by thunder, and suddenly the two of them were approaching quickly. Yang Qing's right fist was raised high and swung out brazenly. Xilu roared, his fists were like phantoms, and before they reached Yang Qing, they swung alternately. In the sky, the clouds were dense again, and countless thunders roared and squeaked, making the dark sky shine. Boom! With a roar, the two quickly fought each other, and thunderous thunders fell on the island, raging wildly, triggering many sparks, but the tidal waters driven by powerful forces rushed to the shore of Shanghai City, and instantly extinguished them. The battle between the two began in an instant, and then became incandescent. The violent power shocked the onlookers inexplicably. The power of each blow was enough to shatter the entire planet. This was an incomparably majestic power and energy. The fists are constantly alternated, the feet are moved, the two of you come and go, and in the place of 100 meters, you retreat and I advance, and I retreat and you advance. What surprised everyone even more was that their power was rarely exposed. Even on this fragile island, every punch and every kick contained a powerful force, but it did not cause much damage to the ground. Xilu's face was solemn, and he took every blow from Yang Qing seriously, even if the power of each punch was not enough for him to use his full strength in his opinion. However, despite his reputation, there is no vacuous person, and the information recorded by the doctor in his mind is enough to make him pay attention. Yang Qing's every punch and every kick is extremely free and easy, and he uses the rules of force to achieve the maximum attack power with the smallest force. Even if it is just a transformation of Super Saiyan 1, it can still compete with Xilu. Of course, this also has a lot to do with his powerful original combat power. Time passed quickly, and the two of them were only the most basic punches and feet, and the rest of the attacks were not displayed. The comparable strength also shocked everyone around them for no reason. The energy fluctuations released between the two people's battles were really terrifying. The complete Xilu is really strong. Suddenly, Yang Qing, who quickly dodged Xilu's fist, exclaimed in admiration, but looking at his expression, he did not show any fear or panic, but still looked relaxed. Unfathomable. These 4 words suddenly appeared in Sun Wukong's heart, as if no matter how powerful the enemy was, this person would have enough strength to deal with it. HMPH, for an opponent like Xilu, the master killed not 2,000 but 1,000. Faku snorted coldly at this time. Although he didn't know why Yang Qing didn't kill the other party. But in terms of the fighting power that Xilu showed at this time, it was only the middle and upper demon gods in the demon world. With this kind of power, even if you don't need to use all your strength, the master can easily kill it. What did you say? Trunks opened his mouth wide, incredulous. However, Faku did not respond. Xilu naturally heard such words, and his eyes flickered slightly. Qing, you are really strong. The #1 powerhouse in the universe, this title is not something that can be hung up casually, it is the news detected from countless alien planets, that is to say, the guy in front of him was in his era, not only in the Earth activities, and even the entire universe or all over his reputation, such a character is absolutely no trivial matter. Even the doctor can set a target for Sun Wukong, but he doesn't even dare to mention this person. Forget it, let's go here today. If you increase your strength a little bit, you will no longer be my opponent. It looks boring. Yang Qing's words were very rude. Xilu's heart twitched, but he didn't say much, just silently accepted it. PFF'd, the blonde hair turned black, and Yang Qing turned and left. Faku, let's go, today's fight is quite interesting. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. The battle with Xilu was only interesting to him, and he didn't even move his muscles and bones. Yes, master. Looking at Xilu coldly, Faku followed Yang Qing and flew away. And as soon as the two left, the people present were a little stunned. The two who were fighting just now will not fight now. However, if the two do not fight, what will they do? Xilu is not that person's opponent, so he doesn't dare to mess around, but when that person leaves, he will never be polite to them. Goku. Seeing Xilu walking step by step with a cold face, Kaylin and the others became nervous. Siruru. The blonde Sun Wukong looked at Xilu solemnly. The terrifying aura began to spread out in all directions centered on the two of them. The meteorological change that occurred when he confronted Yang Qing just now appeared here again. In the sky, the dense thunder and lightning are wantonly vertical and horizontal, the rumbling is deafening, and the waves are raging, slapping the coast, as if the island can be submerged at any time. Your target is me. Suddenly, Sun Wukong spoke up. Chapter 827 You will fail. Feeling the momentum on Sun Wukong's body, it was no less than Yang Qing just now, and Xilu's eyes were a little dignified. Sun Wukong really deserves to be Sun Wukong, it's a bit interesting. Shuru said. You are strong, but I am not without the strength of a war. Sun Wukong's eyes narrowed. Oh. When Xilu faced Sun Wukong, he was not at all like Yang Qing, he seemed very confident and domineering. It's not my intention to fight you now, we'll leave first today. Sun Wukong continued to speak slowly. There is no fear of Xilu's powerful power in his voice, but he is very confident, and the Grand Master's bearing is undoubtedly revealed. You want to leave? The corner of Xilu's mouth showed a smile, and there was a hint of ridicule in the smile. He didn't think that the other party could escape in his own hands. However, Sun Wukong did not respond to Xilu's words again. You hold me, don't let go. He just said to the people who had gathered around him. When he saw the injured number 16, he was slightly stunned, and nodded, signaling the other party to do the same. Number 16's eyes flashed, and his right hand was placed on Sun Wukong. Go away. With a hello, Sun Wukong's right hand was also pressed between his eyebrows. Then, Sun Wukong's eyes looked at Xilu, and in the unbelievable eyes of the other party, his figure suddenly distorted and disappeared. Everyone around him disappeared at once. Seeing Sun Wukong disappear in front of his eyes, Xilu's eyes were obviously shocked. How did he leave? Where did he go? For a while, Xilu couldn't feel it at all. In the Temple of Heaven. The sudden appearance of Sun Wukong and his entourage surprised Sun Wufan, and then it was a surprise. Dad. Sun Wukong nodded and looked at the crowd, but did not find Piccolo. With a frown, his figure disappeared here again. When he appeared again, Sun Wukong's figure appeared on the shore of the island, and Piccolo was under him. There's still breath. With a sigh of relief, Sun Wukong grabbed Piccolo. At the same time, Xilu sensed the aura of Sun Wukong and rushed over quickly. Watching Xilu rushing fast, Sun Wukong's figure gradually became blurred. When Xilu punched Sun Wukong, he had completely disappeared. This punch was completely empty. It disappeared like this again. A cold light flickered in his eyes, and Xilu was very confused by the magical disappearance method of Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong, who came to the Temple of Heaven again, with a solemn expression, fed the immortal beans to the injured people. When he saw that the faces of everyone had returned to ruddy, he breathed a sigh of relief. Xilu is really strong. I'm afraid I'm not his opponent. The repeated sentence made everyone present feel heavy in their hearts. How can this be done? Krillin said worriedly. Number 16 looked at everyone, his eyes were calm and deep, no one could see what he was thinking. The scene fell into a deep depression, everyone was speechless, and Xilu's pressure shrouded their hearts, making them lose the mood to do anything. That Qing, he is very powerful, is it possible to help us? Tianjin Fan suddenly asked. Everyone's eyes also lit up. Xilu's fear of Qing, everyone sees it. If he makes a move, there is great hope. Impossible. However, Trunks shook his head quickly. In the future world, the Earth was severely destroyed on the 17th and 18th, and he didn't even make a move, and it's even more impossible here. Then, Trunks hesitated again. I always feel that Qing seems to have some limitations. Although he has great power, he can't shoot at will. Well, there's no hope at all. Krillin spread his hands and said in despair. No, we still have hope. As long as we practice for a while, it is not impossible to defeat Xilu. Sun Wukong smiled. Cultivation. Everyone was a little surprised, but after thinking about it carefully, it was true. As long as they were able to move forward and their strength became stronger, Xilu would naturally not be their opponent. I'm going into the spirit time room. Vegeta stood up, the breath on her body was extremely sharp. As Prince Vegeta, he is an arrogant person who cannot tolerate others being stronger than him. At the same time, he is also working hard for the honor of the Saiyans, giving his sweat and blood. For this, he is willing to pay all the hard work. As long as I practice in it for a longer time, I will definitely be able to defeat Xilu. However, Bo's explanation shattered his idea. The spiritual time house cannot continue to cultivate continuously. If a person has more than 2 days in his life, the exit will disappear. I'm still going in. Vegeta didn't hesitate, he was a person who thought of doing it, stood up and walked towards the spiritual time room. Sun Wukong looked at Vegeta and smiled. Me and Gohan will not go in. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Now that I have cultivated to this point, I feel that there will not be much progress if I go in. He has always maintained the mode of Super Saiyan 1, and it is not much different from normal, which surprised everyone present. Of course, what was even more surprising was Son Gohan, and so did he. Afterwards, Sun Wukong was going to go home with Sun Wuhan to recuperate for a period of time to hone the normal mode of Super Saiyan 1. Super 2 requires a lot of physical strength. By doing this kind of training, you can quickly become familiar with the power of Super 2 and become stronger. At the same time, in his heart, he had actually given up on his plan to fight Sirius this time. He could clearly see the battle between Xilu and Ching, and he was still not sure about fighting the latter. In this battle, the greatest hope is still with Gohan. Huh. With a slight sound, Sun Wukong and Gohan have come to Karen Cat. King Karen, I want to ask you to help me with one thing. Sun Wukong said with a smile. Is it Wukong, you say? King Karen nodded. I release all my breath, please make a judgment for me, if I fight Xilu, how much the winning rate can be. Okay. King Karen agreed without hesitation. Soon, Sun Wukong released the breath of his body, and the huge breath immediately shocked everyone in the Temple of Heaven, and even thought that he could defeat Xilu for a while. However, in the end, King Karen still shook his head. No, you have a very high chance of failure if you fight him. Sun Wukong was stunned for a moment, then shook his head with a smile. I've already prepared again, but I didn't expect him to be so strong. Chapter 828. You have provoked me. The golden arrogance is surging, and half of the sky is dark in color, and countless thunder and lightning are spreading and hissing in it. The aura displayed in Sun Wukong's body at this moment is extremely huge, but it is still useless. In the comparison of King Karen, he came to the conclusion that he is not as good as Saru. However, in the face of such a result, Sun Wukong was not disappointed, he seemed to have already estimated. Thank you, King Karen. Sun Wukong smiled and thanked him, then touched Sun Wufan's head, and the two disappeared together in the Kalen Tower. During the process of Sun Wukong releasing his breath just now, Sun Wufan's face was always calm, and he didn't seem to be surprised at the powerful aura on his father's body. On the contrary, King Karen was amazed that Sun Wukong was already so powerful in a short period of time. In the next time, Sun Wukong and Sun Wufan returned home. They didn't do any hard training. Instead, they lived as usual, but the two of them kept their Super Saiyan state, making the people around them secretly surprised. On the other side of the earth, after Xilu wondered about Sun Wukong's strange way of leaving, he flew up and left the island. Sun Wukong. Flying all the way, an evil smile appeared on the corner of Xilu's mouth. You seem to be avoiding me on purpose. After thinking for a while, Xilu understood. Sun Wukong is not an impulsive player. Although he is single-celled, he is very intelligent. He is very clear that he is not the opponent of Xilu at the moment, so he chooses to retreat and try to prolong the time for cultivation to become stronger. When he is sure, he will appear again. But how could I possibly give you a chance? His eyes flashed, and a cruel look appeared in Xilu's eyes, and he had already made a decision. He wants to force out Sun Wukong. There are so many people on Earth. With the characters of Sun Wukong and other Earth warriors, it is impossible for them to not care. Half an hour later, Xilu had already appeared in the sky above a city on the mainland. Just start here. Boom. With a gloomy smile, Xilu's hand had already appeared a radiant qigong wave, and the huge energy shook the surrounding space. Immediately afterwards, he casually pointed his right hand. Huh. The qigong wave slid across the air and quickly fell towards the bottom. Boom. A huge explosion sounded, and the monstrous flames filled the entire city in the blink of an eye, and countless screams sounded. In the blink of an eye, a huge city was destroyed in the hands of Xilu. The action here quickly attracted the Earth Army, and a large number of troops came to meet Xilu. But there is no doubt that in the face of the powerful Xilu, the fate of these earthlings can only be destruction. Time was fast, and in less than half a day, Xilu destroyed 10 cities. Every time he destroys a city, he will leave a sentence. Monkey King, you better come out quickly, or I will destroy this planet. Xilu acts cruelly, unscrupulously, without scruples, and doesn't care about anyone's eyes at all. And all this, back home, the peaceful life of Sun Wukong does not know. The plot, in fact, has already begun to change slightly, although it is not much different from the original history, but after all, there is still more Yangqing. Kaylin and others were in a hurry and flew towards Sun Wukong's house quickly. They must tell Wukong this news, otherwise, the earth will really be destroyed. The scene around him quickly moved backwards, and Xilu flew in the air with an indifferent and confident expression. In this world, except for that person, no one is his opponent. He is like the king of the earth, ruling the world, and the enemy will not dare to follow. Suddenly, his figure stopped again. He saw a small city, not big, but in this open area, it was a peaceful life that was not available in other places. How can Xilu tolerate it? As the big villain, the boss, how could he let go of this city he accidentally discovered? With a trembling of his hand, the Qigong wave was ready, and then, with a big hand of Xilu, the Qigong wave swept through the void and quickly fell towards the bottom. At the same moment, in a restaurant in the city, a figure who was originally very leisurely, suddenly frowned, and suddenly looked up at the sky. "Master, what's the matter?" Faku said vaguely while eating. "Annoying fellow, it seems necessary to teach him a lesson." Yangqing said lightly, and with a flick of his body, he disappeared into the restaurant. But strangely, his departure didn't surprise anyone in the restaurant, as if he wasn't there in the first place. In an instant, Yangqing had appeared in front of the Qigong wave that was flickering with violent energy fluctuations. With no expression on his face, Yangqing smashed the Qigong wave with a punch. In the sky, Xilu's originally dull eyes shrank violently, and he looked in the direction where the Qigong wave was swept away. At this moment, his whole body trembled, and the breath on his body suddenly became much sharper. "Huh!" The splendid Qigong wave turned back in reverse and flew towards him at an extremely fast speed. He tilted his head, and the Qigong wave rubbed his ears and rushed towards the sky. The rapid speed even caused a gust of wind, and the wind blade was like a blade, cutting his body and rubbing his cheeks with subtle traces. Phew! Suddenly, his expression has become extremely cold. Until this chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. At this moment, the figure of the flying Qigong wave just appeared in his eyes. "It's you." Xilu's pupils contracted violently, and he had already seen the figure standing in the void below. Different from what I saw last time, this time the figure contained an extremely fierce aura, which was extremely oppressive. With just one glance, his original anger was shattered, and then a trace of fear rose from his heart. This is a coercion from the soul. It seems that he is a lot different from the opposite in nature, like a dimension. Xilu didn't know what was going on, but he knew very well that the feeling in his heart at this moment was called fear. He was afraid. "Xilu, I have to say, you are really a qualified villain. But you annoyed me." Yangqing stood in the void with a very calm expression, but in that calm, there was a strong ruthlessness, as if at any time, he would take action and destroy everything in front of him. No, you listen to my explanation." Xilu panicked, but before he finished speaking, he saw Yangqing below. A head of black hair turned golden. Chapter 829 The Fear of That Kick. Golden flames lingered all over the body, and the breath became hateful, but it was not over yet. Xilu was horrified to find that the other party's transformation this time had surpassed the previous super competition one full power appearance. After the transformation in the first stage of the super competition, it is a slight one, and Yangqing's hairstyle has undergone tremendous changes. The messy blonde hair is still hanging in front of his forehead, forming domineering bangs, the other hair is standing upright, and his eyes have become extremely cold. What made Xilu even more terrified was that the fine golden lightning flashed violently around the opponent's body, as if it was caused by the leakage of the aura in the body. This is Super Saiyan 2. It can easily smash you into pieces. The indifferent voice sounded in Xilu's ear, which shocked his whole body, and secretly exerted all his strength. The doctor's fear of the person in front of him came from his soul, so the information recorded in his mind was also the same, which brought him natural fear. However, with the bloodline and character in his bones, he has the courage to fear no one. This contradictory feeling made him fear at this moment, but also had a sense of excitement to face a powerful enemy. It's easy, then you try it. Under the fear, Xilu became angry, and immediately shouted at Yangqing. I don't know what it is. With an indifferent voice, Yangqing's figure suddenly disappeared. Its terrifying speed made Shiluan not react at all. He only felt a gust of wind blowing, and a figure had reached his back. You can't even sense me, how can you be so arrogant? Xilu's whole body was shaken, and the courage just now disappeared instantly, turned into fear again, and his whole body trembled. Too fast. It's so fast. Incredibly fast, he turned around quickly and punched. But what hit was just a phantom. A punch was swept out, the punch was fierce, and the phantom was torn into powder. But the voice came from behind him again, causing his pupils to shrink. You are too slow. Impossible. After the panic was over, it was unbelievable, Xilu roared, waved his long arms, and waved back again. However, as last time, it was still empty. I said, you are too slow. The indifferent voice sounded again, but this time, accompanied by a strong force, it hit his ass and buttocks fiercely. Xilu snorted, only feeling that his ass and butt were blooming. That huge power instantly turned him into a cannonball, slashing thousands of meters out of the air, and then fell to the ground ruthlessly. Directly smashed a mountain 3 kilometers away. Boom! The mountain collapsed, and the rocks submerged Xilu. Boom! After 3 breaths, a dazzling light flashed out from the rock, and Xilu's figure appeared again, but it could be seen that his movements were a little awkward, as if he was deliberately moving forward. Damn! He was kicked and his farts exploded, and Xilu was extremely angry. He immediately glanced at the sky, looking for Yangqing's figure, but after a breath, that frightening voice resounded from behind him again. Can't find me. Don't. Xilu's heart trembled, trembling and shaking coldly. However, Yangqing obviously wouldn't listen to him, raised his right foot, aimed at the swollen ass and butt, and slammed it hard. Boom! A mountain was smashed by Xilu again, and then he flashed again, shattering the rocks, his face ashen with a trace of pain and fear. He felt that his farts had been cracked, and the bone-piercing pain made him let out a groan. Do you know what fear feels like? Then, the voice that made him collapse sounded from behind again. Bang! Yangqing's right foot kicked Xilu's white, oh no, green and tender farts again. Click! Sound could be clearly heard, as if something had broken. Ah! Sirius moaned and groaned in pain, and the sweat on his forehead came out. His farts were completely numb, and he could no longer feel the pain at this time, but the pain in his whole body made him messy, as if a part was missing, and it was so painful that he couldn't breathe. This time, Xilu did not hit the mountain again, but his face was close to the ground, and only after drawing a 1,000-meter-long ditch and gully on the ground, did he stop the trend. Standing up tremblingly again, Xilu's eyes were full of fear. His whole body was covered with bruises, his nose was blue and his face was swollen, especially the backside and buttocks, which were more than 3 times larger than at the beginning. Do you want to come again? This voice made Xilu shout out in horror immediately. Don't. The sound was like a cuckoo crying blood, and the weak woman screamed in terror in the face of the gangster, making people cry with sadness, and the chrysanthemums and flowers tightened. Bang! This kick was still kicked down fiercely, and Yangqing wanted to let Xilu know what it was like to be afraid. Flying up again, Saru was desperate, and was about to collapse. His ass and butt fell. Such pain is worse than killing him. From the beginning to now, he didn't even see the other party's face. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. He was kicked in his ass and buttocks again and again and again, 3 and 4 times. His delicate and tender farts have blossomed and become no longer it. Pain, sadness, and despair swept through Xilu's body and mind. If it wasn't for the man's strength, he would have already wept. This time, he didn't even get up again, but lay on the ground in despair, like an ostrich, burying his head in the ground, not wanting to open his eyes to see the world again. Da da da. The slight footsteps came into his ears, and Xilu shook his entire body, and the chrysanthemum and flowers felt tight. What is he going to do? Don't want it again. OMG, don't. Remember, the fear of this foot. A playful voice in indifference came into Xilu's ears, causing Xilu's whole body to shake violently. Remember, don't. Xilu was like a sullied and defiled little girl, with a sad expression, sadness and despair on her face, which made people feel sorry for her. I'm impressed. I hope you will remember what I'm saying now. This sentence made Xilu have a bad premonition again. Immediately after, he felt a huge force coming from his ass and buttocks again. Then, he took a deep breath and shouted loudly. Ah! The sound was astonishingly loud, and there was a vibrato caused by the pain of the human hand. Chapter 830 _ Pain. It hurts so much. Xilu can't even imagine this kind of heart-piercing pain. It stands to reason that his heart is iron-hearted, and no matter how much pain he suffers, he will not feel the pain. However, the fact made him unbelievable. This time, he completely remembered the pain of Yang Qing's kick, and he also understood why the doctor was so afraid of this person. He's not human, he's a devil, he's a monster. I'm not interested in your business. No matter how powerful you are, in my eyes, you're just a bigger ant. I can kill you with a single finger. But don't interfere with the lives of these ordinary people. Speaking of this, Yang Qing's tone was already a little heavy, and it was stern, which made Xilu tremble. You have affected the balance of the universe, and I have the right to obliterate your existence. And the next sentence made Xilu cold. He couldn't understand what Yang Qing said, but the aura that seemed to be the majesty of the universe made him fear from his soul. What Yang Qing said is indeed correct. It's nothing to fight Xilu and Sun Wukong, but to wreak havoc on the earth and slaughter civilians. It has indeed interfered with the operation of the universe, the laws of nature. As the preliminary king god, he has the right to kill each other. Whereas Sun Wukong, I will inform you that in 10 days, you will have a battle. The result of winning or losing is discussed by yourself, and I will not interfere. In these 10 days, if you hurt a civilian, I will kill you directly. Leaving this sentence coldly, Yang Qing flew away. Until the back was calm and he couldn't feel the terrifying aura, Xilu shook his whole body and pulled his head out of the ground, but his expression was still lingering, and he couldn't hide his fear. It's terrifying, he's far beyond my full body. At the same time, what Yang Qing said was deeply imprinted in his heart. After a long time, Xilu just returned to calm, and his powerful recovery force also made his wounds heal quickly. Woo! After a long sigh of relief, Xilu's complexion became complicated, and he became cold again. It won't interfere, that's fine. It's just the words of Sun Wukong and the others, I am sure of victory, and then everything will not be up to me. Just thinking of that kick again, Xilu's whole body trembled. This was the fear that lingered in his life. After Yang Qing packed up Xilu's meal, he came to the restaurant again and ate. Is it serious? Faku felt the breath and asked aloud. Well, get rid of him. Yang Qing nodded. Master, why don't you just kill him? Faku is very strange. Yang Qing's battle in the demon world is by no means a person who will be merciful. Why is it like this when he comes to Xilu? I shouldn't have killed him. Yang Qing just smiled mysteriously, causing Faku to scratch his head. Let's go to the play. Then, he said another sentence, which made Faku even more puzzled by the second monk. Immediately afterwards, the two walked out of the restaurant and flew high into the sky. Next, I have to go to Sun Wukong's place. Yang Qing is very curious about Sun Wukong's practice during this period. It can be said that the reason why Sun Wukong can improve so fast is closely related to the foundation he laid when he was a child and his unique cultivation, but his talent. Because of his Saiyan blood, he is far from Vegeta, but he is the most distant. And whether it is future cultivation or strengthening, in fact, it has a great relationship with the cultivation method during this period. Therefore, Yang Qing went to look for Sun Wukong this time, not only to inform him of the information to let him fight with Xilu in 10 days, but also to see what is special about his cultivation. He knew very well that after the first battle of Xilu, in a few years, Sun Wukong would cultivate in the underworld to break through the realm of Super Saiyan 3. And this realm, it took him a lot of time to achieve. The hardships I put in, and the time Sun Wukong spends, are absolutely the difference between heaven and earth. What is the reason for this? Yang Qing is very puzzling. It stands to reason that he is in a priesthood, and he has the bloodline of the legendary Super Saiyan, or even the Super Saiyan God, so he will not be slower than Sun Wukong. It is true that his current strength is already very strong, and it is difficult to break through. However, there must be something wrong with the road he has traveled before. This time, I took the time to observe Sun Wukong's cultivation, and also had a reason for examining his own cultivation in the past. With Faku, the two walked all the way to the place where Sun Wukong was. It only took half a day for them to see the mountain top of Sun Wukong's house. That's it. With a smile on his face, Yang Qing pointed to the top of the mountain ahead. I have to say that the address chosen by Sun Wukong's family is very beautiful, and it is quite far away from the city. And this charm, let Yang Qing see, there is a unique feeling of hidden world. It's no wonder that Sun Wukong can calm down and cultivate. It is quiet here, and one can go far. Although cultivation is related to one's own will, it is also closely related to the environment around him. Sun Wukong was considered a genius before he became an adult, but when he became an adult, his ambition was sparse, and it had a great relationship with the environment he was in. This great talent was wasted in vain. Yang Qing. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Shaking his head. In the original novel, the most unfortunate talent is Sun Gohan. When it comes to the talent of cultivation, this man has great potential, even surpassing his father. But his ambition is not to cultivate, but to learn what to do. As everyone knows, what is the most useless knowledge in this long pearl world? If you encounter a strong enemy, how can you protect your relatives without strong power? This is the relationship between the environment. After Sun Gohan became an adult, he lived in the city, interacted with everyone in the school, and was completely integrated into the life of Earthlings. This is like a long and a snake dwelling. The Saiyan's nature and blood have been completely wiped out. How can he reach the management level of martial arts, and his current state is even more ignorant, forcing the latter to learn. When Sun Wukong was a child, he had a great interest in cultivation. It's a pity. In words, Yang Qing is even more pity. This time, if possible, he would like to reverse this pity. If taught carefully, Sun Gohan might not be weaker than his father. This is a very potential and talented martial artist. Chapter 831 Kiki's Nagging. After pondering for a while, Yang Qing increased his speed, streaked a stream of light in the void, and quickly walked towards the small house where Sun Wukong was. The breeze is gentle, and the surrounding of Sun Wukong's home can be said to be a shade of greenery. The fragrance of plants is refreshing, and all kinds of birds are chirping. If you add fairy clouds, it can be called a fairyland on earth. At this time, Sun Wukong and Sun Wukong were not at home, they were naked by a river. The river was rushing, and a white belt was pulled out in the forest, and it went far away, as if there was no limit. Dad, how can it be so difficult to catch fish? The blonde-haired Sun Gohan looked speechlessly at the fish that had slipped away from his hands several times, very embarrassed. He clearly remembered that with his speed and strength, he could easily catch the fish in the water. Haha, Gohan, don't be in a hurry. Although you turned into a Super Saiyan, you haven't mastered the power in this state, and even I'm still far behind. Transforming into a Super Saiyan, strength, speed, and energy all increase dramatically, but this surge of power is difficult to grasp for a while. In ordinary activities, you stamped a footprint at home, this is the makes sense. Also, the speed of catching fish is either fast or slow. You need to gradually familiarize yourself with the power of catching fish in your normal activities. Others such as walking and eating must be paid attention to. Sun Wukong explained with a smile. He stretched out his hand, grabbed it like water, and then retracted his hand in embarrassment. Well, Dad, I see. Sun Gohan nodded. The sudden increase in strength is like a long process for a born baby to learn to walk. When Sun Wukong reached a bottleneck in his cultivation in the spiritual time house, he realized this problem after breaking through. Compared with the power of Super Saiyan Stage 1, Super Saiyan 2 also consumes more physical strength, and correspondingly, it takes more effort to control its power. Even at the beginning, they couldn't control this huge power into small details. 400% of the power, but only 50% can be exerted. Like a baby wielding a heavy hammer, this massive hammer even carries the baby around. The two of them stood barefoot, standing in the river, their eyes watching the flow of fish in the river, and from time to time they reached into the water to catch fish. However, because of the huge Super Race 1 energy after the transformation, it is difficult to control the strength, and it often splashes a large amount of water, making them embarrassed. During this period, because of this embarrassed appearance, the father and son also laughed at each other. Ha ha ha, Dad, you are so embarrassed. Also said to me, Gohan, that your clothes are all wet, and when you go back, Kiki will talk to you again. Compared with other fathers and sons, Sun Wukong is not strict at all, but very gentle. His relationship with Sun Wuhan is more like a friendship between friends, very casual. Compared with maintaining the image of a strict father, it is obvious that the single-celled Monkey King prefers such a harmonious atmosphere. The two were playing with each other, but in the process, their control of their power was slowly adjusted and progressed rapidly. While they were fighting, Yangqing and Faku had already arrived in front of a small wooden house. This is Sun Wukong's home. Nodding, Yangqing said softly. Faku understood, and then stepped forward and knocked on the wooden door. Bang bang bang. The sound of his percussion was short, and heavy, and each sound was exactly the same, clearly caused by percussion at the same location with the same force and speed. Who is it? A clear female voice came from the door, and then the wooden door opened with a creak, revealing a handsome young man. With a woman's face, she looked at Yangqing curiously. Who are you? I'm here to find Sun Wukong. Faku's face was cold, and his voice was even lower, and he didn't look like a good person. Chi-Chi immediately became nervous and vigilant. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to Wukong? Hee, you're Sun Wukong's wife, Chi-Chi, right? Hello, I'm Qing, we're here to find him without any ill will, but there are some things that need to be notified to him. Seeing Faku's poor communication method, Yangqing covered his forehead and was speechless. If you talk to people like this, everyone will be scared away by you. What's the matter? Seeing Yangqing's normal human appearance, with a big smile on his face, Chi-Chi breathed a sigh of relief and relaxed a little. I'm afraid I have to see him in person. What about Mr. Sun Wukong? Yangqing asked curiously. He saw that there was no one in the room. He took Gohan to practice. Chi-Chi looked at the two of them again and again, and found that there was no malicious aura about them, so she said. Can we go in? We can wait for him to come back. Yangqing asked with a smile. Glancing at Yangqing again, Chi-Chi nodded, but let the two of them in. After she entered the wooden house, she looked at Faku curiously while pouring tea. Isn't he an earthling? He doesn't look like an earthling. Well, Faku is from the devil world, Yangqing smiled and nodded. The skin is so weird, even weirder than Piccolo, This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. The temper is also weird. Kiki muttered. Faku sat in a chair and listened to others talking about him. His eyelids trembled, but in the end he didn't pay attention, just drinking the tea that fell down silently. If nothing else, this tea is very good, and he enjoys it quite a bit. The devil world is too barren. Where can there be so much food and drinks on the earth to enjoy? Hee, Faku has lived in the demon world all his life since he was a child, so he is a little withdrawn. Yangqing nodded, not caring about Faku's expression, and said with a smile. A man, that's pitiful. Chi-Chi took one more look at Faku, and there was actually sympathy in his eyes. Faku looked awkward, and he felt uncomfortable drinking tea. What does Mr. Sun Wukong do when he is at home? When he had nothing to do, Yangqing opened up the topic and asked at will. Goku him. At the mention of Wukong, Chi-Chi first sighed, and then said with some anger. He really doesn't care about this family. He knows how to cultivate every day. He hasn't done the work in the field for a long time, and he doesn't cook every day. If the land is so large, if I hadn't forced him, I don't know how long it will be abandoned. Quote. Faku was startled, and the tea in his mouth almost spit out. Chapter 832 Cultivation. Sun Wukong has seen it before. In his eyes, it is a powerful warrior who has surpassed Vegeta and has been able to compare with the master's first stage transformation. But here, it was so unbearable to say it in the mouth of this woman, which made him feel like his worldview was collapsing. Don't do farm work. Don't go out to make money regardless of family affairs. A martial Taoist who ranks among the top in the universe would be entangled with these things. Faku really can't figure it out. Although he has never been out of the demon world, he also knows that in the outer universe, it is more than enough for a warrior of his level to be the overlord of the galaxy. But a character like Sun Wukong was blamed by his wife for these trivial things, which was beyond his imagination. Hee, Mr. Sun Wukong is very good at learning martial arts with all his heart. Yangqing understood the reason, but he didn't say much. Looking at this simple wooden house again, everything is so simple, but neat, and there are forest flowers and plants outside. In this close-to-nature environment, perhaps the troubled hearts of human beings will calm down and do what they think is right, and they will be firm and unshakable. If you are in a noisy city, this quiet heart, it will be very difficult. Perhaps it was Sun Wukong's growing up living environment that made him choose this remote place, but it was also a coincidence. Cultivation is normal. I thought Sun Wukong was cultivating when he was cultivating, but when I came here, I realized that I was wrong. Shaking his head with a wry smile, Yangqing finally understood why the speed of Sun Wukong's cultivation was so changed. His talent is not very good, but the way he cultivates is incredible. Such as Vegeta, himself and others, they are only called cultivation when they are cultivating. But what about Sun Wukong? In his ordinary life, he is also cultivating, honing his state of mind, and exercising his own physique. Even if he is cultivating the land and doing farm work, he is exercising his arm strength and speed. On the way to practice. If this goes on, how can progress not be fast? Is this the secret to his rapid progress? There is a way to do something regularly, instead of trying hard and recklessly. Sun Wukong's practice also includes rest and hard times. But on the whole, his cultivation is not like Vegeta, giving people a feeling of hardship and pain, but very relaxed and enjoyable. A person is deliberately pursuing, and a person is enjoying it easily. If this goes on, the gap may be large in the early stage, but in the later stage, the gap will become wider and wider, unless Vegeta also finds her own cultivation in the future. Wei. Thinking about it carefully, Yangqing always had a smile on his face. At this time, Chi-Chi was still talking about Sun Wukong's disregard for his family, but this was different in Yangqing's eyes. Cultivation in peace, sharpening in daily life, relaxed and harmonious, and reaching the other side, is this the practice of Sun Wukong? From beginning to end, Sun Wukong's practice is actually very simple, but the effect is also very obvious. Eating is practice, walking is practice, labor is practice, crying is practice, laughing is practice, wife's scolding is practice, children's laughter is practice, everything in life, in the eyes of Sun Wukong, is practice. Life is the practice of Sun Wukong. Let me ask, under this kind of practice, who will not make rapid progress? Of course, what Yangqing figured out at this time is just the outline of Sun Wukong's practice, which is a general statement, and the details need to be observed before you can savor it carefully. When the cup of tea was finished, it was already in the afternoon and evening. Watching the sunset, listening to Chi-Chi's nagging and complaining about the various things about Sun Wukong, Yangqing actually felt a sense of life, and couldn't help feeling very emotional. On the contrary, Faku, who seemed to have been unable to bear Chi-Chi's long-winded words, closed his eyes, blocked his hearing, and sat there, looking out of sight and out of mind. When the sun went down and the sky gradually became dark, two figures also appeared outside the wooden house. Yangqing's eyes flashed and he looked outside the wooden house. Chi-Chi heard the movement outside one step later, and said with a smile, "Wukong and the others are back." Although he said that Sun Wukong was not, but Yangqing clearly saw the happiness and warmth in Chi-Chi's eyes at this time. Just as he was talking, Sun Wukong had pushed the door and entered the room. In an instant, Faku's eyes opened, and the shielded five senses unfolded instantly. When Sun Wukong saw the two people in the room, his face changed immediately and he shouted loudly, "Who are you?" Sun Wukong also noticed the existence of Yangqing at this time, and reached out to stop Gohan. "Gohan is fine, don't be nervous. They are here to find Wukong. This is Qing, this strange-looking person is Faku, and they said they are looking for you to inform you of something." Kiki explained at this moment, then waved at Gohan. Gohan came over. "Why didn't you pay attention? How dirty your clothes are. How did Mom teach you? You are not obedient all day long." Sun Wukong's face turned bitter. He glanced at Wukong, and walked towards Chi-Chi with his mouth closed. Wukong laughed while watching Kiki teach Gohan a lesson. "And you, Wukong, why are you laughing? How old are you, and you're still like a child, huh? Look at your clothes, they're dirtier than Gohan. What the hell are you doing out there?" Poor. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. I am alone, helping you clean, cook, and do laundry at home. Why am I so miserable? Sun Wukong's laughter stopped abruptly, and he couldn't laugh any longer. The father and son looked at each other and laughed bitterly, very helpless. After some tossing and fussing, and after changing all the clothes on Sun Wukong and Sun Wufan, Chi-Chi allowed the two to come out and talk to Yangqing. "Hee, sorry for making you wait so long." Sun Wukong came out and scratched his head, and said to the two of them embarrassedly, "It's okay, I'm here to inform you of something." Yangqing waved his hand, but he didn't mind. These scenes of Sun Wukong's family made him sigh. This is the life of an ordinary family. As the most powerful man in the universe, Sun Wukong, in this family, he is just an ordinary member. "Oh," Sun Wukong questioned. "It's about Xilu." Yangqing gave Sun Wukong a deep look, and then said. In an instant, Sun Wukong's eyes became solemn. Chapter 833. Do you want to become stronger? Sun Wukong, who has personally seen Xilu, naturally knows very well how terrifying this monster is, although it has been around for a short time. After training in the spiritual time room, he had broken the temporary bottleneck and reached the current limit. He was already very powerful, but facing Xilu, he still had shortcomings and was not the opponent's opponent. "What happened to Xilu?" Sun Wukong asked in a deep voice, and his expression became very serious when it came to such an issue. "I met Xilu," Yangqing said softly. When he saw Sun Wukong's gaze, he explained with a soft smile, "After talking to him for a while, he promised to start a battle with you in 10 days. Quote, if he wins, he won't shoot anyone on Earth again. If it fails, then he will kill you and destroy the earth. In this one, because it has been agreed, within these 10 days, he will not shoot against the people of the earth because he can't find you. Staring at Sun Wukong, Yang Qing said sentence by sentence. At this moment, everyone present was looking out of the wooden house, including Sun Gohan. After 3 breaths, several figures flying at extreme speed came to Sun Wukong's wooden house. Keelan, Tianjin race. Sun Wukong looked at the coming figure in surprise, and cried out in surprise. Wukong, something is wrong. The 2 figures quickly came to the front of the wooden house, pushed open the door of the wooden house, and shouted loudly. What's the matter? Are you all here? Looking at the person coming, Sun Wukong wondered. Xilu is looking for you. He has destroyed more than a dozen cities. The purpose is to force you to come out and fight against him. Krillin said anxiously, very nervous. Sun Wukong's face suddenly became serious. With his understanding of Xilu, this kind of evil monster is absolutely capable of doing such a thing. Well, I'm here to inform you about this. At this time, Yang Qing on the side also said with a smile. Only then did the 2 of them notice Yang Qing and the 2 sitting in the room, and they couldn't help being surprised. It's you. Hello, Keelan. Yang Qing smiled and nodded. Faku just glanced indifferently. Ah, hello. Keelan said nervously. Yang Qing's strength, he had seen clearly before, and he was naturally very afraid of such a powerful character. Ha. Yang Qing just smiled. Not much. Then he looked at Sun Wukong and continued the previous topic. Actually, when Xilu came over the city where we were, the master was eating. Faku spoke lightly. He disturbed the master's meal, so the master taught him a lesson. He only became honest at this time, so the master agreed with him that 10 days later, you will fight. Faku, who was taciturn, suddenly opened his mouth to attract everyone's attention. It was only at this time that Sun Wukong understood this matter. It must have been Xilu's destruction everywhere, and it happened to meet Qing, so there was this agreement. The master values you very much, and I hope you won't disappoint him. Faku whispered again, and then fell silent again. Everyone was surprised. What was surprised was that Yang Qing could easily make Xilu change his mind. To his surprise, Yang Qing intervened in this incident. In fact, after that incident, they also asked Trunks and learned that although Qing was extremely powerful, he would not easily interfere in human affairs. So, this time, do you have confidence in Monkey King? Yang Qing asked softly with a smile. I bought 10 days specifically for you. In an instant, everyone in the room turned their attention to Sun Wukong. Under everyone's attention, Sun Wukong scratched his head embarrassedly, and then said embarrassedly. Frankly, 10 days is too tight, I'm not sure. Yang Qing was not surprised by this result, but he could see the disappointment flashed in the eyes of everyone in Keelan. He pursed his lips and smiled, and turned his eyes to Sun Gohan, who had been silent for a while. How about you, Gohan, are you sure? When asked by Yang Qing, Sun Wufan was obviously a little surprised, and he didn't react for a while everyone in the room was a little stunned, and all looked at Wufan. Dad doesn't even have confidence in me. He scratched his head and didn't say more, but everyone could hear the meaning. So, do you want to be stronger? Yang Qing did not let Sun Wufan go, but continued to ask with interest. Get stronger. Sun Wufan was taken aback for a moment, then thought for a while, and said seriously, I think so. Why? I want to protect Mom, Dad, Uncle Pick, and Keelan, Tianjin Fan, and Earth. Sun Gohan was still young, but he always had a passion in his heart, as well as his own dreams. He wanted to protect everything, but all along, he was helpless. He didn't have enough power. From a young age, he understood the importance of power. But every time, he has become a burdensome person who cannot help others. Very good. A smile appeared on Yang Qing's face, seemingly satisfied with the answer. Then, he spoke to Sun Wukong again. Understand. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Kong, do you mind if I practice with you during this time? Sun Wukong was obviously a little shocked by this question, and then a big smile appeared on his face, and he stretched out his right hand and said loudly, "Of course I don't mind, ha ha ha." Sun Wufan secretly stood aside, looking at Yang Qing. He always felt that this person was very different. After that, Yang Qing and Faku collected materials on the spot in the nearby forest. Yang Qing just waved his hand, and a golden light flashed. A small wooden house has appeared in the same place, and an open space has been cleared next to it. This is exactly the role of divine power. As a reserve realm god, it is easy for Yang Qing to read the countless divine books in the Tibetan scripture pavilion and transform between substances. On the second day, Kaylin and others left. Now that the matter has been dealt with, they will naturally have no effect if they stay here. Everything just waited 10 days later, that earth-shattering battle. At dawn, Sun Wukong brought the spirited Gohan to the wooden house of Yang and Qing. Squeak! The wooden house was pushed away by Yang Qing. Looking at the two men with blonde hair who were already standing in front of the wooden house, a smile appeared on Yang Qing's face. "Hi, Qing, let's start practicing." "Haha, okay, let's practice together." Yang Qing laughed loudly, followed by Faku, and walked towards Sun Wukong and his son. Chapter 834 The Lost Cub. The four of them joined together, and Sun Wufan glanced at Yang Qing a few more times. He always felt that this young man seemed to take him seriously. Noticing Sun Wufan's eyes, Yang Qing smiled and touched Wufan's head, making the latter a little shy. "Haha, Gohan, are you interested in practicing with me?" On the way, Yang Qing spoke to Gohan, which surprised Sun Wukong, then smiled and didn't interrupt. Sun Wufan glanced at his father, saw that the latter did not object, and nodded. "Okay, we will practice cultivation for a while," Yang Qing said with a smile. After a while, the four entered the jungle. "Wukong, how do you usually cultivate? Let's just follow the way of the past today." "Well, okay." Sun Wukong nodded. Everyone looked at Sun Wukong, only to see him nodding at Sun Wufan. Their eyes flashed, and then they were ready for action. "The first thing is to point out the way home for the little animals who have lost their way." With a big smile on his face, Sun Wukong laughed. Then, with a flick of his figure, he had disappeared in front of several people. Faku's eyes flashed, and he followed closely. Since Sun Wufan is in a group with Yang Qing, then he is naturally in a group with Sun Wukong. "What did your father mean?" It wasn't until Sun Wukong left that Yang Qing asked Gohan with a bewildered expression. Every day in the forest, there are many animal babies who act randomly but can't find their home. Our practice during this period is to send these lost animal babies back to their homes. Sun Gohan explained. But this explanation made Yang Qing's mouth twitch. Well, I have to admit that Sun Wukong's strange cultivation method completely broke his thinking. "Go ahead, Uncle Qing." Sun Wufan laughed, moved and disappeared quickly. Looking at Sun Wufan's back, Yang Qing squinted and smiled. "Well, let me feel the way this family is different from other people's cultivation methods." Also, Sun Gohan is indeed a guy with amazing potential. He actually already has such strength. He noticed that Sun Gohan's current strength was completely on the verge of breaking the calm of Chaosai too, and he could enter the next field at any time. After this period of practice, if he is fully familiar with the power of Super 1, that is, if he reaches the full power of Super 1, then once he enters the field of Super 2, the unexpected power that erupts will definitely shock everyone. People. After just 3 flashes, Yang Qing was already behind Sun Wukong and fell tightly behind him. "Here's one." The two shuttled through the forest and moved quickly. After about a minute, Sun Gohan's eyes lit up and he landed on the ground. Yang Qing followed him and looked forward, only to find that it was a young leopard, looking at the front in confusion, as if he couldn't tell which way was the way home. Without hesitation, Sun Wufan took the young leopard into his arms. Haha, don't be afraid, I'll send you home right away. During the speech, Gohan's figure had already moved. He quickly shuttled through the jungle. In less than 30 seconds, he had already found the mother and mother of the young leopard, and placed it in front of the mother and mother of the leopard. That's it. Son Gohan nodded with a smile on his face. Then, he turned his head to face Yang Qing. Uncle Qing, did you see it? I guess I get it. Yang Qing folded his arms and nodded. This kind of practice examines eyesight, insight, and observation. In the forest, it is definitely not easy to complete this task quickly. First of all, you need to find the lost baby animal, which requires the insight to quickly find the target in the rapid crossing. Second, you need to observe the target animal's smell, appearance, and determine where its home is located. It can be said that this kind of practice is definitely not easy, but it has been extremely effective in cultivating people's fighting qualities for a long time. In battle, it is necessary to observe the terrain and judge the environment, which requires extremely precise insight and observation. After the two looked at each other, they quickly separated. About 3 minutes later, Yang Qing found an animal, and then through analysis, he judged where its home should be. But, to his disappointment, his judgment was wrong. My power of observation, my insight, is a bit lacking. Through this failure, Yang Qing understood something. After Sun Wukong discovered the target, he was able to determine its location only once, but he obviously hadn't reached it yet. This was related to the first time he did this kind of cultivation, but it also proved that in his past cultivation, he still hadn't taken into account some aspects. It's interesting. Slowly, a smile appeared on Yang Qing's face. This kind of cultivation can make oneself stronger. When I always thought that I could no longer improve, I suddenly found another breakthrough. This is undoubtedly a happy thing. Next, within an hour, the two of them removed all the animals that were lost on the east and west sides of the forest. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. The ministry moved home and gathered in the middle of the forest. At this time, Sun Wukong and Faku were already standing there waiting for them. Hi, are you guys done too? Yes, Papa. Uncle Qing is very good. The first time he did it, he was not inferior to me at all. Sun Wukong laughed loudly. Wukong glanced at Yang Qing, and then smiled. Mr. Faku, it's also amazing. Faku stood aside indifferently and didn't say much, but his eyes swept over Sun Wukong from time to time, obviously unconvinced. Within an hour, he began to feel that this matter was nothing special, but when he did it himself, he found the horror of this smiling guy beside him. His speed, observation, and attention were simply perverted. There is no doubt that in this confrontation, he has already lost to Sun Wukong. Next, we're going to prepare lunch for noon. Sun Wukong twisted his neck, his fists collided, and sparks shot out of his eyes. At noon, we eat fish. Yesterday, he caught a day's worth of fish, but because his control of power was not complete enough, he didn't catch a single one. Today, it is natural to continue this practice. Oh, Qingyu and Dharma, you don't need to practice this, it shouldn't be of any use to you. Yang Qing smiled and shook his head. That's not necessarily true. Chapter 835 Sun Wukong didn't understand Yang Qing's words, but after that, he saw that with a wave of Yang Qing's hand, a brilliant golden light burst out from Faku's body. This is... Faku was shocked. He felt that his power was inexplicably imprisoned a lot, and even he could not exert all his original power, as if he was carrying a mountain. The four of them came to the river, and then they all rolled up their trousers, jumped into the river naked. Let's start. If we have dinner at noon today, we'll see if we make progress. Sun Wukong shouted and took the lead. His speed was very fast, his hands turned into phantoms in an instant, and the strength was even more terrifying. Half of the river was almost shattered by him. However, the hair was useless, and not a single fish was caught. His hands stayed in the air. Sun Wukong was very embarrassed, and the three people next to him all looked at him with dull expressions. "Dad, come on." Only Sun Wukong gave a soft encouragement. Faku's face was indifferent, ignoring a few people, his eyes focused on a fish, and he concentrated his energy. In his sight, the speed of the fish became extremely slow. When he wanted to come, it was not too easy to catch this fish. Then, suddenly, he reached into the water and grabbed the fish. But in an instant, there was a very uncomfortable feeling in his whole body, and his face was a little ugly. Poof! The hand entered the water, but did not catch the fish. He couldn't control his own strength perfectly, glanced at Yang Qing next to him, and Faku suddenly understood that it was the master who made his practice more difficult. "Come on, if you can catch the fish, your strength will rise to the next level," Yang Qing said with a smile. Faku nodded, and then worked hard without saying a word. At this time, the three of them have already started their own cultivation. Yang Qing closed his eyes slightly, then opened his eyes, clenched his hands, and his whole body was shocked. Black hair turned blonde, eyebrows turned blonde, pupils turned green, and then, in a shock, fine lightning appeared around his body, his hair stood up high, and only a few bangs hung down on the front of his forehead. Strangely, the transformation in such a state did not reveal a trace of breath, which was felt by the three people around him. This is the power of God. He perfectly conceals his aura. As long as the opponent does not reach the strength of God, it will be difficult for him to find himself. This is simply fatal in battle. Then, right after that, Yang Qing's face became hideous, the fine thunder and lightning all over his body became more distant. His golden hair was elongated little by little, his forehead was bulging high, and the whole person became hideous, his whole body imposing, even more with a little bit of wickedness. 3 seconds later, the state of Super Race 3 has been transformed by him. This is. Looking at Yang Qing's state at the moment, Sun Wukong's face changed greatly. Just now, a trace of breath leaked out and was sensed by him. It was an indescribably vast aura, as if it could destroy the entire galaxy. The chi he has at the moment is like a child in front of the other party, and he has no power to fight back. This is the state of Super Saiyan beyond Super Saiyan 2, which is Super Saiyan 3. After Yang Qing's transformation, a cold temperament appeared on his body, and his words became a lot more indifferent. Super Saiyan 3. Sun Wukong was inexplicably shocked. He had never seen such a powerful force. Even the power of Super Saiyan 2, he doesn't have full control at the moment, let alone Super Saiyan 3. What made him even more terrifying was that he had never known that the person in front of him was already so terrifying. He is very aware of the transformation of the Super Saiyan. Every time he surpasses the limit, he will obtain a terrifying and incomparable increase in strength. On top of the original combat power, it will increase again 1,000 times and 10,000 times. The power after the increase, how terrifying, simply startling. Yang Qing turned into Super Saiyan 3, he found that it was still difficult for him to control this huge power to the level of nuance. This power is too great, it seems that I was negligent before. His eyes flashed, and he also stared at the fish in the water. This kind of cultivation still applies to him. Boom! The huge force caused the entire river to burst, and the water splashed, directly submerging the three people next to it. But none of the fish were caught. Yang Qing touched the back of his head, feeling a little embarrassed. Cough, hee, the power is not well controlled. After explaining a sentence, Yang Qing quietly retreated dozens of distances under the watchful eyes of the three, and opened the distance to practice alone. Immediately afterwards, the four of them kept a distance from each other. Their strength was very strong, and they were not well controlled. If they were not careful, they would directly burst the river, and the splashing water droplets had a very strong penetrating power. Although it does not cause harm to the four people, it is inevitably troublesome. Bang bang bang. One morning, in the river, there was almost such a sound, continuous, very loud and spectacular. Until noon, the four of them were speechless and embarrassed. They didn't even catch a single fish. The power that could not be controlled was like a galloping angry horse, which was difficult to control. What's for lunch? Yang Qing is a little embarrassed. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Opening his mouth, a lot of movements in the morning made his physical exertion a little huge. Well, I didn't catch the fish. How about we go to the forest to catch some wild animals? Sun Wukong was also very speechless. Although he had made some progress in his practice in the morning, it had not reached the normal level after all. That's all. After that, when everyone moved, the beasts on the ground were obviously much slower than the fish in the water. A few tens of meters apart, several people controlled the intensity of the Qigong wave, and they could solve one with just one shot. Soon, a fire broke out, and 4 or 5 huge beasts were placed on the flames. With a wave of Yang Qing's hand, these beasts turned and roasted by themselves. 10 minutes later, the fresh and tender taste of meat came out, making everyone drool. I am so hungry. Sun Wukong wiped his saliva, then grabbed one and ate it. Seeing that they have already started, other people are naturally welcome. Among them, especially Faku, he has never experienced this kind of cultivation. He only feels that he is in a state of confusion all morning, and he is already dizzy when he is hungry. Ah, it's delicious. With a vibrato admiration, Faku, the demon god, has become less like a demon at this moment. Chapter 836 Battle. I have to say that Sun Wukong's cultivation method is extremely unique. He is different from most people in the universe and has his own unique set of theories. Effort and ease coexist, but can achieve a multiplier effect. Next, in the afternoon, several people separated and conducted battle training. If there is no Yang Qing, then the 2 people who are fighting will naturally be Sun Wukong and Master Wu Fan. Since there are 2 more people, and the strength of Faku is not weak, it is a team with Sun Wukong to fight each other. The 4 quickly flew away from the surrounding forest and found a secluded plain area. The breeze was blowing, but the distance between the 4 of them was very far away. Their combat power is extraordinary. Although they can be suppressed, their enormous destructive power cannot be underestimated. Gohan, do you know how strong you are now? Standing opposite Sun Wufan, Yang Qing asked with a smile. I'm weak. Sun Wufan didn't have much confidence. He knew that Uncle Baibek, even Keelan and the others, were still children, and their strength was not strong. You feel weak. Yang Qing smiled a little playfully. Being able to transform into a Super Saiyan has already broken the boundaries of living organisms, exceeding the limits of ordinary humans. You have completed the transformation of a Super Saiyan, and your own strength is already too strong. Shaking his head, Yang Qing said softly. Now, Gohan, come and attack me with all your might. Sun Wufan nodded solemnly, knowing that the strength of the person in front of him was far from his own. He was shocked, the surging golden aura was burning, and the terrifying energy wave was turbulent, shaking the void. Great power. Yang Qing's black hair, under the blowing of this explosive breath, shuddered, his eyes flickered with light. Sun Wufan is definitely not as weak as he said. On the contrary, at this moment, Sun Wufan is very powerful. Before he knows it, he has surpassed his father and walked even further than Sun Wukong. Speaking of which, the descendants of the Earthlings and Saiyans are stronger from one generation to the next, but the will to fight is weaker than the next generation. Perhaps, because of the fusion of the 2 genes, the potential of the Earthlings has profoundly affected Saiyan people, but at the same time, the militant factor in their blood has also decreased. It has to be said that this is a very contradictory thing. Saiyans are a fighting nation because of the ferocity and belligerence in their blood. But it is obvious that the descendants of Saiyans and Earthlings are more talented than the next generation. Sun Wufan can transform into a super competition at the age of 10, and when it comes to Sun Wuxian, it is even more terrifying, and he can complete this achievement at a few years old. But at the same time, their stamina is not enough, and they are not comparable to purebred Saiyans. While thinking, Son Gohan has raised his own strength to the limit. This strength is very strong, but it is still at the stage of Super Saiyan 1. Come on, Gohan. Yang Qing, who is not transformed, unfolded his body and said to Sun Wufan. His eyes narrowed, and the next second, Sun Wufan suddenly stepped on the ground, and the whole person seemed to be transformed into a bow and arrow, and with a swoosh, he shot directly at Yang Qing. Buzz! As the air roared, Sun Wufan was already in front of Yang Qing's eyes, but his low figure contained extremely strong energy. Bang! Yang Qing raised his hand and firmly grasped the fist that the opponent was attacking. Watch out, Gohan! With a reminder, he suddenly lifted his big legs and slammed into Son Gohan's abdomen fiercely. The latter trembled all over, his legs forced, and he flipped 3 times to the rear and stood still, dodging this ferocious attack. With a twinkle in his eyes, Son Gohan attacked again. Yang Qing stood on the spot, did not move, and defended the fist that Sun Wufan attacked again and again. During this process, Yang Qing did not move a step, showing a strong defensive ability. It seems that no matter how Son Gohan attacks, he can't touch Yang Qing's body. Gradually, more than 10 breaths passed, and there was a gap in Sun Wufan's attack. How amazing is Yang Qing's insight! He punched into the attack screen that Sun Wufan was hitting, directly interrupting the opponent. Just a flash of effort, this punch had already reached Sun Wufan's face. Suddenly, Sun Wufan's pupils shrank and his heart trembled. In his pupils, a fist quickly enlarged and reached the center of his eyebrows. It's over. However, after a breath, the imaginary attack came. He opened his eyes and saw a smile on the face of the person in front of him, then turned his fist into a palm and flicked his fingers. Boom! Sun Wuhan flew towards the rear, flying straight for a distance of 1 kilometer before hitting the ground. This huge noise caught the attention of the 2 Sun Wukong who were fighting enthusiastically. Gohan is working hard. Sun Wukong smiled. You still have time to look elsewhere. Faku gave a low drink and launched a fierce offensive. The latter let out a long laugh and happily fought with Faku. Gohan, get up, come again. Your attack rhythm is not right, and your control is not enough. Yang Qing's voice sounded. In the deep pit, Sun Wufan stood up and touched the position between his eyebrows, only to feel very painful, but he suffered. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Injuries are minimal. Uncle Qing, thank you for your mercy. The training he had experienced before was merciless, especially Bic. Every punch and kick was a real injury. Our purpose is to fight, don't think about it, come again. Yang Qing laughed softly, and then his eyes narrowed, and he said solemnly. But you have to take it seriously or you will suffer a lot. This time, it's my turn to attack. Huh. In just a moment of effort, Yang Qing reached Sun Wufan, his fists turned into phantoms, and they attacked continuously. Sun Wufan's expression was serious, he raised his fist, and quickly attacked. Very good, defensive posture is very good. Next, try again. Yang Qing smiled with satisfaction. At the same time as his fists attacked, his feet also began to move. Just bending his legs, his knees slammed towards the top. Sun Wufan's eyes flickered with light, and at the same time, his feet began to step down suddenly. The next second, the 2 legs slammed together. Boom! The ground trembled, and a large crater appeared. Immediately afterwards, the movements of the 2 almost turned into shadows, and their figures began to move quickly in the plane. Gohan pays attention. I'm going to speed up. During the battle, Yang Qing's voice sounded again. Chapter 837 Annoying. Sun Wufan's eyes condensed, staring at Yang Qing's every move. In the next second, his pupils shrunk suddenly, only to feel a gust of wind blowing against the wind, and the convenience has come to him. Bang! Terrifying power poured out frantically, and Sun Wuhan raised his hand to meet him, using his full strength to take over all the opponent's attacks, but at the same time, because of that power, he kept retreating. Good. Seeing that Gohan took over his attack, Yang Qing shouted loudly and stepped forward, increasing his speed by another level. Faster. After being reminded by Yang Qing, Sun Wufan's eyes flashed brilliantly for his debut, and the speed of his attack increased by another level. This time, Sun Wufan still perfectly blocked Yang Qing's attack. Beautiful. A series of attacks came from Yang Qing's hands, and he suddenly shouted, "Be careful." With a jump, Yang Qing suddenly jumped into the air, his right leg suddenly straightened, and with a pop sound, he kicked Gohan fiercely. Its speed and strength suddenly accelerated. So fast. Gohan's pupils shrank again, and he quickly blocked his arms in front of him. Bang! There was a loud noise, and the ground under Gohan's feet cracked. Until then, Yang Qing's wave of attacks seemed to have come to an end. However, it's not over yet. Yang Qing, who was in the air, exerted a force on his waist and swayed suddenly. Om! The void trembled, his left leg lifted, his figure twisted, and he kicked Gohan's arms again. Crack! When the crisp voice came, Gohan's whole body shook, and his entire body retreated 10 meters. But it wasn't over yet. With the help of the power that had just turned, Yang Qing actually turned again and threw out his right leg, but in an instant, he had already crossed a distance of 10 meters and arrived in front of Gohan. Boom! This time, the final blow in the 3-hit combo appeared, directly hitting Gohan's body. The latter immediately trembled, and his body flew out. It hurts. After a few breaths, Gohan's painful voice came, and he stood up slowly, only to feel pain all over his body. Just now, Yang Qing's 3-battery attack was so terrifying that it sent the power all over his body, causing every cell, muscle, and bone in his body to hum. Very good, Gohan, you are already very strong now. Yang Qing took a few steps and smiled at Gohan. Uncle Qing is really amazing. Before he turned into a Super Saiyan, he was already so scary. Son Gohan said enviously. Why, do you envy my current powerful strength? Yang Qing said with a smile. Yeah, if I have the power of Uncle Qing, I can protect Mom, Uncle, protect. Having said that, Sun Wuhan scratched his head embarrassedly, but did not say any more. Who else do you want to protect? Yang Qing asked curiously. Protect Dad. Sun Gohan then said firmly. This sentence made Yang Qing stunned for a moment, then laughed, and patted Sun Wufan's shoulder fiercely. Very good, I can rest assured if I have this ambition. Judging from the current situation, Sun Wufan really has the heart to become stronger. He knew that Sun Wukong was stronger than him, but he still wanted to protect his father. Want to become stronger? During this period of time, just practice with me. Taking a deep look at Sun Wufan, Yang Qing said softly. Well, trouble Uncle Qing. The two rested for a while and started fighting again. The foundation of Sun Wuhan can be said to be quite solid. With the teachings of the two most powerful martial arts masters on earth, Piccolo and Sun Wukong, it can be said that almost all aspects of Gohan are perfect. Strategic layout, battle rhythm, as well as insight, speed, power, and angle of shot have all formed their own systems. In the battle with Yang Qing, his terrifying talent also showed. In just one short afternoon, Sun Wufan has made rapid progress. Although he didn't feel it himself, Yang Qing was keenly aware that the aura in Sun Wufan's body was stronger than before. What a great talent! Nodding secretly, Yang Qing was very satisfied with Sun Wufan's talent. The union of Earthlings and Saiyans gave birth to a more outstanding next generation. The day passed quickly, and the four of them were exhausted from fighting all afternoon, but they all had satisfied smiles on their faces. At dusk, when they returned home, Chi-Chi did not nag anymore, but was already prepared. I know that Wukong and the others eat a lot, so I prepared food for you. In Sun Wukong's house, rice is served in a basin, the size of a bathtub, and the dishes are huge beasts like a hill, which have been roasted. These are all prepared by Chi-Chi herself. She is very skilled and can handle some weak beasts. It smells good. Faku's nose was shaking, and he had already started to swallow. The four of them took a big mouthful and started to eat wildly. Chewing and chewing food continued to spread. These four people can be said to be gobbling. The next day, the practice of the four continued. On the other side of the earth, a green, perfect Xilu is walking slowly on the ground. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. There are still 9 days before the battle, and Xilu's mood is not very beautiful. His butt and buttocks are still aching at the moment. Compared with the pain in his body, his psychology is even more shadowed. That guy. Thinking of the farts that were still in pain, Xilu clenched his teeth and had a desire to kill. At this moment, the alarm bell rang loudly in front of him, and Xilu raised his head. In front of him, a train made a woo-woo sound, and a frigid wind blew past him. He just stood in front of the high-speed train, expressionless, and he didn't know what he was thinking. However, the people in the train had already seen him. When they saw the indifferent expression and the familiar appearance, their expressions quickly changed from stun to panic. My God, it's Xilu. It's the monster Saru, help. He will kill us. The passengers on the train panicked instantly, stood up in horror, and quickly squeezed together towards the other side, as if this would make them feel a little more secure. Regarding the noise on the train, Sarun's keen hearing was naturally extremely clear. Gradually, his expression changed from calm to somewhat angry. These annoying flies. With a low drink, the red light in his right hand flickered, and he was about to shoot, but suddenly, his face froze, and he stopped again. Chapter 838 Induction. The crimson light slowly disappeared. At this time, the train had also reached the end, and it ran fast in front of Xilu with a long cry. Damn! Clenching his fists, Xilu's face was very ugly. At the moment of the shot, Yang Qing's threat flashed in his mind, making him give up the idea of shooting. Moreover, Xilu has his own pride, and he will definitely do what he promises to others. Dang dang. The bell rang, and the interception that blocked the pedestrian was withdrawn. Xilu stepped forward and walked towards the opposite side. At this time, the people who were blocked by the train also saw Xilu. Suddenly, their faces became exactly the same as those on the train just now, and they screamed in fear. Run, it's Xilu. This terrified voice was extremely sharp, and it entered Xilu's ears, making the latter have an urge to cut people. The originally dense crowd immediately began to run around, and in front of such a world-destroying demon king, they didn't even dare to stay. On the way to escape, several cars even collided with each other, and the driver ignored the car, opened the door, and ran away quickly. In less than 10 seconds, everyone disappeared without a trace. Really disgusting flies. Xilu's face was indifferent, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. After standing on the spot for more than 10 breaths, Xilu's mood slowly calmed down, and his clenched fists loosened. After 10 days, I will destroy everything on this planet. He secretly made this decision in his heart, and at this moment he was already uncomfortable wherever he looked. HMPH, what a nasty place. He snorted coldly, flew up, and flew in an unknown direction. Running all the way, sprinting in the sky, Xilu is like an old driver flying in the air. He was experiencing the thrill of rushing, and after a full hour, Xilu breathed a sigh of relief, and his face became calm. I can't change the duel 10 days later, but the rules of the game have to be decided by me. His eyes flashed, his figure turned, and he immediately rushed down. Half an hour later, Xilu found a secluded area, looked at the mountains in front of him, and sneered. It's right here, with beautiful mountains and rivers, it's just right as their burial ground. With a trembling in his hand, the light flashed, the mountains and peaks were flattened by him, and then a spacious competition platform appeared. Then, Xilu smiled coldly, closed his eyes, and began to wait. At the same moment, Yang Qing, who was cultivating with Sun Wufan, suddenly felt his brows beating wildly. He immediately avoided Sun Wufan's attack and dignified aside. An ominous premonition. What the hell is going on? For some reason, in his heart, the alarm bell rang wildly and kept ringing. He just felt that something extremely close to him, very important and dangerous was happening, but no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't understand it. What the hell is going on? Under the frantic beating of his eyebrows, it actually caused him to suffer unbearably and groaned in pain. Uncle Ching, what's wrong with you? Sun Wukong said nervously. He noticed Yang Qing's abnormality. It's okay, you practice first. With a wave of his hand, Yang Qing flew up, found a secluded place, and immediately began to sit and meditate. His divine power radiated and gathered between his eyebrows, trying to figure out what was going on. But when all the divine powers were condensed together, the eyebrows were still beating violently, and even the two eyelids were beating wildly. His eyes were actually stimulated and started to cry. What the hell is going on? Yang Qing's heart trembled. He actually felt a strong sadness. Unable to control his lacrimal glands, the tears flowed wildly. There was no way. Yang Qing thought that there was an old Jia Wang Shen in the Jia Wang divine sword. Maybe he would know something. As a result, a ray of light flashed in his hand, his mind condensed, and he immediately entered the Realm King divine sword. At this moment, the old Realm King is living a very leisurely life. Although he can't get out, there is one more person and one beast in the sealed space, which allows him to enjoy himself. At this moment, he was riding on the huge king of demon beasts, and another demon king woman was massaging his shoulders. Well, comfy, go down further. Oh, yes, your little hand squeezed just right, really good. The old king god closed his eyes in enjoyment. Suddenly, a gust of wind rushed towards his face, and the demon king next to him flew out immediately, and the old god of the realm couldn't open his eyes for a while. In addition to the monster below, there was an angry roar that seemed to be extremely sad. Old king god. A familiar voice came, and the old god of the realm opened his eyes. Yo, you're a kid, why are you free to see me? When he saw it clearly, the old god of the realm was even more amazed. The guy in front of him was bursting with tears, as if he was extremely sad, but he couldn't stop the tears. What's the matter with you? The tears can't stop flowing. I don't know either, but all of a sudden, my eyebrows hurt so much, and then the tears kept streaming down. Yang Qing said in pain, tears filled his eyes, and he couldn't even see what was in front of him for a while. That's weird. The old realm king was amazed. I have an alarm bell ringing in my heart. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. It seemed that something extremely important was happening that was very closely related to me, which made my brows tremble, but I gathered divine power between my brows, but I didn't see anything. A faint barrier blocked my true eye, preventing me from seeing what it was. Yang Qing explained quickly. Generally speaking, the gods have subtle senses, and once something closely related to them happens, they will be pulled by strange phenomena. Such as the dream of the god of destruction. Yang Qing's brow pain is the same. But this kind of thing, the parties involved can use divine power to investigate, and it is easy to come to a conclusion. You mean that the sharp pain between your eyebrows is related to your induction? The old realm king then became solemn. The induction of the gods is generally not trivial. Even if a planet is destroyed, it will not make them feel anything, but once this kind of induction occurs, it must be a big deal. Yes. The old god of the realm thought about it carefully. His expression became more and more solemn, and finally glanced at Yang Qing. His face was also difficult to look at. I'm afraid it's not good. Obviously there is a sense, but it can't be detected through the eye of reality. This is very important. Moreover, it is very likely that someone close to you is going to have an accident. Chapter 839 The Power of Anger. Think about it carefully. In this world, will your relatives and friends be in danger? With just one sentence, Yang Qing's face suddenly became solemn. But he thought about it again. His relatives and friends are either by his side or in the future world, and in the future world, they are also in the realm of the gods, and generally they will not encounter any danger at all. No, they have already been arranged by me on the planet next to Zhuang Shengxing, and there will be Zhuang Shengxing when they are in danger. Even if they die, they won't be like they are now, and I can't stop crying." The old god of the realm was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, "This is, after a mortal dies, you won't have such a reaction, and you can sense it directly. Unless, this person is a god." Suddenly, Yang Qing was startled. Gods. The only gods he knew well were the realm gods. But the realm king god, who has been in the realm king god realm, is unlikely to have an accident at all. In addition, the god of destruction is closely related to him, and it is almost impossible for anyone to put his life at risk. So what's going on here? Gradually, with the passage of time, this strange feeling was also reduced, the beating of Yang Qing's eyebrows became weaker, and the tears stopped. "It's over." Yang Qing was stunned for a moment, wiped the tears from his face and said in confusion, "If you think about it again, this matter is no trivial matter. It is related to the gods, and it is definitely a big event." The old god of the realm was also very concerned about this matter, urging Yang Qing Dao. "I know." Nodding, Yang Qing closed his eyes and began to sit down with his knees crossed. He began to stroke it over and over again, calculating all the powerful enemies in his mind that could destroy gods. Majin Buu. No, it shouldn't, Trunks hasn't gone back, Majin Buu is still sleeping, not him. Who else is there? Could it be Sha? It shouldn't be. Although his aura is strong, he doesn't know the realm of the gods, and he can't break the barrier between them. He has never seen the realm, and it is impossible to know where the realm of the realm is. Shaya was excluded by him second, as he thought, and it was true. However, he underestimated Shaya's ability, which shocked Yang Qing, who saw Shaya again. Black Goku. That's impossible. Black Goku is extremely powerful, but it hasn't appeared yet. After filtering through the enemies in his mind, Yang Qing has never found anyone else who has such an ability to threaten the life of the Kaiwang god. I still can't think of it, there is no clue at all. Yang Qing said helplessly. Then don't know. The old god of the realm shook his head, but there was a trace of sadness in his eyes. After that, the severe pain between Yang Qing's eyebrows finally stopped, and the feeling in the dark disappeared completely. He said goodbye to the old realm king and appeared outside again. What is it? This question has always troubled Yang Qing, causing him to have doubts. But there is no clue, so we can only talk about it later. As for returning to the future, Yang Qing has not thought about it for the time being. Time travel is a big sin. If the realm king knows where he has gone during this time, he will definitely not be able to forgive him. It can be said that it is easy to go back, but it is difficult to come back again. Returning to Sun Wufan again, after watching the latter practice for a while, Yang Qing was still thinking about the reason for the situation just now, but there was no clue and he could only give up. In the Realm King Divine Sword, the face of the old Realm King was less of a joke and indifference, but more helpless and worried. Hey, this kid has such a feeling, 80% of the time it's something happened to that kid from the Realm King God. The induction is so short-lived, I'm afraid it's too late to take any measures now. In the words, the old Realm King was extremely solemn. Many years ago, there was a demon Boo, who dared to attack Kaiwang, but this time, who was it? Even the highest priest in the universe, the most powerful Realm King, can't stop it. It's messed up, the world is going to be messed up. Helplessly shaking his head, the old Realm God had nothing to do. It's okay for him to help out, but he's out of date and can't get involved in such a big deal anymore. Time passed slowly, and before you knew it, 5 days had passed. This day, Yang Qing looked at Sun Wufan and suddenly asked, Gohan, do you know that there is a powerful potential in your body? Potential. Gohan said strangely and shook his head. He doesn't feel that he has any power, all his power comes from his hard work. Although Dad, Uncle Bick kept saying that there was a huge power hidden in his body, but he didn't feel the slightest bit angry. Have you ever tried to make yourself angry? Yang Qing asked with a smile. Angry? Sun Wufan was taken aback, then shook his head again. He is usually not angry, inheriting his father's character, and Sun Gohan has always been peaceful. The unique bloodline of Saiyans makes them stronger when they are angry, or when they are on the verge of life and death. But this unique characteristic is invisibly magnified in the bloodline generated by the combination with the Earthlings. Yang Qing looked at Gohan and said slowly. With you, it is especially clear. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Obviously, as long as you are angry, a powerful force will erupt from the depths of your body, and this power of anger will be your powerful means of defeating the enemy in the future. Anger generally makes humans irrational, and an irrational human being is like a beast with no reason at all. Naturally, he will not be so powerful and will be easier to defeat. However, for Son Gohan, who combines Saiyan blood, his anger will make him gain an incomparably powerful power. This power is like dynamite. It is usually hidden in the body, but as long as he is angry, once it is drawn out, it will explode. Angry. Although Sun Wufan himself is rarely angry, he knows that he does have such a situation. As a child, because every time he erupted, he would lose consciousness. However, as he grew up slowly, he gradually discovered that anger really gave him terrifying power. It's just here, it's terrible, he can't control it, and he is worried that it will hurt the people around him. From now on, until the battle with Sirius, I will help you and draw out the power of anger within you. As long as you can master that power, get angry and let yourself go berserk. Then, maybe, this time, you can really protect your dad. Smiling, Yang Qing said something that made Sun Wufan's pupils shrink. Chapter 840 Extreme Strength. Protecting the people around you is easy to say, but it is not easy to do. For a long time, Sun Wuhan has not had enough strength to realize his dream, but it does not mean that his heart is not eager and longing enough. On the contrary, he wants to become stronger every moment, to protect Dad, protect Mom. Without enough strength, he was afraid of his own weakness, so he never dared to show it. However, at this moment, the person in front of him said with a smile, he can do it too. Can I? Muttering, for the first time there was anticipation in Sun Gohan's eyes. Of course. Yang Qing stared at Gohan and said deeply, a real strong man, he believes in his own strength very much, even to the point of being conceited. Gohan, you have to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Sun Wufan's eyes were a little confused. From birth to now, has he believed in himself? Only by believing in yourself can you become someone's support and make others believe in you. Gohan, take courage, this time, you must believe in yourself. Yang Qing smiled and encouraged the child in front of him. Gradually, the first ray of firmness appeared in Sun Wufan's eyes, and slowly, he became more confident. I see, Uncle Qing, I will try my best. Well, look at Vegeta. He is confident to the point of being conceited every time, and although he fails every time, he has never given up on himself. At this point, you have to learn from him. A strong person should be like him. No matter what he experiences, he will not give up easily. After slightly hacking Prince Vegeta, Yang Qing admonished Gohan with a smile. Seeing the light in the eyes of the young man in front of him getting brighter and brighter, Yang Qing nodded secretly. The words he said worked, and this time, the power that erupted from Sun Wufan's body would shock everyone. Sun Wuhan and Faku on the side continued to fight. The combat power of the two, although Sun Wukong was stronger after doing his best, but Faku was not weak. In the case of not releasing all his strength, the two were evenly matched, but it was abnormal fiery. Come with me, we both need to avoid them in our cultivation. Slowly flying up, Yang Qing flew to the side quickly. Sun Wufan did not hesitate and followed Yang Qing closely. Uncle Qing's strength, Sun Wufan is very clear, and he is very excited to be taught by such a master. After half an hour, the two came to a desert. Wind swept through the sky and the sand filled the sky. The climate here was extremely harsh, and the high temperature made the sweat of the human body evaporate quickly. However, neither of them cared about such a bad climate. Right now, there's no one around here, so, Gohan, unleash all your power. Staring at Sun Wukong, Yang Qing said in a serious voice. Full power. There was a trace of confusion in Sun Wukong's eyes. He cultivated in the spiritual time house. He only knew that he had made great progress. From the original ordinary strength, to transforming into a Super Saiyan, and then one day, inadvertent anger, made him seem to break the bottleneck of his body again. However, how powerful he is, and what will happen after releasing the power of his whole body, even he himself does not know. Gohan, don't hesitate. While thinking about it, Yang Qing's cold voice came again, making Sun Wukong return to his senses and took a deep breath. Uncle Qing, I don't know how strong my power is, but I think it's very powerful. Please be careful. Hearing the arrogant words in this young man's politeness, a smile appeared on Yang Qing's face. Well, that's how Saiyans should be, confident and arrogant. Come on, show me all your power. With a loud drink, Sun Wukong already had his hands on his waist and his eyes narrowed slightly. It can be clearly seen that the blue veins on his arms burst out, and his face slowly becomes hideous. Suddenly, Sun Gohan let out a deep roar. Ha! Om! The air trembled inexplicably, and in the next second, the golden aura of Sun Wukong rose up, and the wind became even stronger. It turned into a whirlwind, moving towards the sky, rolling up the yellow sand in the sky, forming a huge long roll. At the same time, a terrifying aura rose into the sky. Okay, I can't believe that there is such a huge amount of energy in your body. Feeling the boiling violent aura in front of him, Yang Qing was startled, and then said with joy. Keep releasing, this is not your limit. Sun Wukong's face at this moment has become extremely cold, and even looks a little cold. Golden flames are burning all over his body, the ground under his feet is constantly sinking, and he himself is suspended in the air, staying abruptly in the air. Ah! A manic roar came from Sun Gohan's mouth, the ground trembled again, and then split apart. To Yang Qing's surprise, the golden flame around Sun Wukong expanded again. The majestic energy aura, shaking the void, made the entire desert seem to be afraid. It is completely unimaginable that Sun Wukong, who is no longer hiding, has such a huge amount of energy in his body. This power fluctuates infinitely. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Close to Super Saiyan 2, but not enough. Muttering, Yang Qing realized this. Although Sun Wukong's progress is astonishingly fast, his strength at this time is still not his limit. Super Saiyan 1 is still not enough to defeat Sirius, nor is it the terrifying power that erupted when he was angry at that time. Go on, Gohan, you haven't reached the limit yet. Hearing this sudden sound, Sun Wukong was taken aback. Uncle Qing, how do you know this is not my limit? He was amazed at Yu Qing's understanding of him, and even his father, he believed that he would not know so clearly about him. However, Qing did it. Indeed, he did not reach his limit. In that case, Uncle Qing, prepare to be surprised. At this moment, Sun Wukong looked a little wicked and charming, and became extremely confident, and a strange smile appeared on his face. It was only after a short while that his appearance became hideous again, his head drooped and his arms exerted strength. Ah, ah 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 ah. Roaring loudly, the golden aura on his body became more surging and condensed, and the incomparably terrifying aura, billowing like wolf smoke, rushed into the sky. The next second, the sky changed.